Part 53. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 523. Phone reading. Geo family, follow me on the battleship, don't let me do anything. A skinny middle-aged man was the first to rush down the battleship hatch and shouted at the stunned everyone outside. Dozens of servants and security forces were all shocked by the terrifying shock of the warship's appearance, and no one could make a sound. Please search for the most complete view. The fastest updating novel can't even react for a while. Who are you? There was only a 3 or 4-year-old girl who looked small and weak. She squatted on the ground and kicked her little buttocks while playing in the mud. She looked at the person with her big, ignorant eyes and asked strangely, regardless of her dirty appearance. Road. This must also be the Geo family. The skinny man made an analysis immediately, and then rushed towards the child with a tiger pounce. Be bold. At this moment, a tall figure suddenly jumped out from the distance. This figure reaches a height of about 3 meters. Although he is wearing the clothes of an Earthling scientific researcher, no one dares to underestimate him. After all, he is an alien species at a glance. The strong men of the giant mosquito clan, even those who are known to humans to specialize in research, are all extremely powerful beings. At least to the people on Earth, they are simply invincible gods of war. The 3-meter creature came quickly, far faster than the skinny man, causing his face to change wildly. But at this moment, a bright attack light suddenly lit up in the battleship. The light shot accurately, hitting the flying creatures in the head. The energy of the explosion turned into a terrible shockwave in the air, blowing away the entire lawn outside the castle. The maids and security forces were also unable to stand one by one, and they all sat on the ground. However, the biological powerhouse staggered, and with a terrifying fighting spirit shining in his eyes again, he flew towards the little girl, wanting to protect her as much as possible. The strong men of the giant mosquito clan are too difficult to deal with, even the gunfire of battleships can't deal with them. The skinny man's face changed drastically, and he rushed towards the little girl desperately. At the same time, the artillery fire in the battleship also launched the attack in a very coordinated manner. The attack capability of the battleship is simply too powerful. This is not like the technology that people on Earth should have at all. So the powerful creature of the giant mosquito clan was hit hard by the battleship again. At this time, the skinny man picked up the little girl and retreated towards the battleship. There is a strong guardian here, hurry up and leave, the skinny man shouted loudly while carrying the girl into the cabin of the spacecraft. In fact, he didn't need to shout. The outstanding Earth pilot in the battleship was already ready. As soon as he entered the spacecraft, he had already started the spacecraft's engine to the maximum limit. Boom boom boom. Violent tail flames spurted out, melting a large area of the ground. Tell your assassin, if you want this child to live, trade it for your best spaceship. I'm not talking about the one built on Earth, but the one you came to Earth on. The specific details are in the report I handed in yesterday, and my identity is also included in it. I guess your assassin knows me, haha. After saying all this through the loudspeaker, the ascending spaceship has already lifted up again. The city's defensive artillery did not dare to fire anymore due to concerns about the hostages in the battleship. I can only watch it go. Time returned to the present. While flying towards the Earth, the big mosquito opened the report mentioned by the attacker according to the words described by his subordinate. This is an encrypted report. Maybe people who met it for the first time would not think of this at once, but after this incident, the encrypted content can be easily cracked. You want me to hand over the spaceship, and then cripple a subordinate who can operate the spaceship and hand it over to them? There was a faint murderous look in Jia Yan's eyes. At this moment, his anger almost burst out, threatening to burn the earth. And his name is called Northeast Wild Tiger? And Addict? These are all very familiar names. I didn't expect that in this period, this kind of little guy can actually make me so big. If you are angry, I have to say, don't underestimate the ants. Jia Yan could hardly hide the cold feeling in his heart. He wanted to bring to justice the two criminals who dared to offend his family. It's so damn good that it's Xiao Kekai who was captured. She's still so ignorant, don't be frightened. Jia Yan was a little worried. At this time, in a space area more than 100,000 kilometers away from the Earth. Kekai throws Gao Gao, Kekai throws Gao Gao. The little girl's giggles continued to be heard in the empty battleship. The two grown men looked at the little girl in disbelief. They had captured this little girl before, thinking that she was a 3 or 4-year-old child and would be easy to deal with. But what they didn't expect was that this little girl was not a simple child. When space entered the universe, the gravity in the battleship became different. The little girl seemed to have activated some kind of power, and became as light as a swimming fish in the lighter gravity. She can actually fly. Come and catch Kekai, hide and seek. Kekai kept flying in the air while smiling happily with her little face flushed. Yes, this little girl used her brainwave power. On Earth, her brainwave power could at best allow her to levitate for a while, but in the vacuum of space, the Earth's battleship's artificial gravity was not strong, so she could fly very smoothly at this time. As for being arrested, this child has seen too many strangers recently. She still can't figure out whether she is playing in a place similar to an amusement park or what happened, so it is naturally the simplest expression at this time. You little bastard, stop it. The addict caught him, but Jiachi used a disguise in the air to escape the addict's attack. The two of them kept hiding everywhere in the empty battleship without anyone else. Senior, what's wrong with you? You can't even control such a little guy. The Siberian wild tiger wanted to operate the battleship, but he couldn't do it. After all, he was operating such a huge battleship alone, replacing the work of countless people. It is already extremely powerful if it does not collapse at this time. And it is really difficult for an addict to catch Kekai alone. Kick, cluck. Mom, spank me. Suddenly, Kekai seemed to think of the trick that Jiolin used to deal with her. She also wanted the skinny man, an addict, to have a taste of it. So the little girl flying in the air kicked the addict in the buttocks with one impact. Ouch! A middle-aged man who was originally very serious, but was also a master, let out a laughable cry when the addict was kicked. Destroyed the previous image of a master. This master is no longer a strong man in front of alien-level powerhouses. Even facing Kekai, a little baby girl with good brainwave power, he is nothing more than a joke. Kekai let out a hearty laugh, and the addict was kicked by her and hit the wall of the battleship. She seemed to have discovered a good idea to deal with adults, and she smiled very happily. Looking around in the air with her big eyes, Kekai discovered another target person. That is the Siberian wild tiger in the cab, constantly looking here, but unable to move. This is an extremely tall man who does not look like a kind person. But among the creatures that Xiao Kekai has seen recently, there are many creatures that are far more terrifying than the Siberian wild tiger. It can even be said that she grew up watching all kinds of terrible things. Which one of Uncle Giant Mosquito and those 10 uncles men is not stronger and more hideous than the tall man in front of me? So without any hesitation, little Kekai flew over to try her mother's trick on this man again. Grrrrrrrrrrrrr. Spank me. Her small figure laughed loudly in the air, and then came behind the Siberian wild tiger and found him sitting in the driver's seat, unable to hit his butt. But this was not a problem for the clever little Kekai. She couldn't kick the butt, so the little girl raised her short fat legs and kicked the Siberian wild tiger on the head. Mom hits you on the head. Mom hits you on the head. Ouch. Senior, please quickly find a way to control her. The Siberian wild tiger didn't pay attention, and his head was kicked and hit the operating screen. The battleship also moved randomly at this time, and I don't know which button was hit. I also want to control it, but this little thing has become so flexible in the universe. If I had known, I would have tied her up on the ground. At this time, the addict stood up from the ground in a daze. He almost cried when he looked at the naughty child flying in the air and giggling at the wild tiger in the northeast. It's not that he doesn't want to control it, no one could have imagined that a little baby that staggers when walking can become so difficult to deal with. Maybe they don't know that after Kikai showed her talent, all the brainwave power experts under Giant Mosquito went to teach her, and she was very interested in brainwave power. So even though humans are still small, when it comes to the power of brainwaves, it can be said that they surpass all the people on Earth. I have talent, plus I have so many good teachers, and I have the motivation to hum high every day. It's impossible not to turn into a lawless little bully. Come on, Kikai, right? Are you hungry? Uncle, there is something to eat here. Come here and give it to you. The addict came up with a trick. Liar. You are not an uncle, you are a grandfather, Kikai shouted sweetly, speaking very righteously. Me? Grandpa? The addict was stunned. He was only in his 40s now, why was he a grandfather? This sentence really hurt his heart. Doesn't he just look a little older? Calling grandpa hurts people. Bad guy. Spank me. Kikai shouted, as if she was extremely angry because the person who was supposed to be grandpa called her uncle, and flew over in the air. Thanks to Jia Yan's regular game of throw gao gao with her, Kikai didn't have any fear in the air. Instead, she seemed extremely excited because she could fly more freely. The addict had been prepared the moment before the little girl rushed over, and opened his hands to catch Jia directly before she rushed over. But just before Kikai was about to rush in front of him. Bo! Although not very strong, the impact of brainwave power was enough to affect the addict's thinking, making him dazed for a moment. Puff! Before he could recover from the shock, a thin short leg had kicked him on the butt again. Ha 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 ha, spank mom. Little Kikai almost laughed like crazy. She almost felt a stomachache when she saw the addict suddenly fell down and gnawed in the mud. This little girl is so unbelievable. I don't know which teacher taught her, and she even learned the attack method of brainwave power. The little girl stepped on the addict's back and bounced her short legs hard several times. The addict's face changed when she stepped on him. After teaching the deceptive addict a lesson, the little girl flew up. She is still thinking about another bad guy? Until now, the little girl still thought that these two people were playing with her, so she was very excited at this time. Hit mom in the head. Kick, kick, kick. Not a moment later, the scene of Jia trampling on the head of the Siberian wild tiger appeared in the battleship. Senior. What kind of little ancestor did you catch? The Siberian wild tiger was about to cry without tears. After all, the little girl is still young, so kicking people doesn't hurt much, but she keeps disturbing them like this. It's like a huge time bomb, which is extremely hateful. Me. The addict wanted to say something, but he could only shake his head helplessly. He found that the world had really changed too much. He was a top expert in the past, but now he was reduced to the point where he couldn't even control a 3 or 4-year-old girl. Reached the point. Where is she going? Catch her quickly. Suddenly, the Siberian wild tiger saw little Kikai flying around in the air with some boredom, and then flew towards the bridge. You know, this battleship is not big, but it is not small at all. A battleship is 100 meters long and has several floors. Such a small girl can fly and no one can find her if she hides. Come down quickly, uncle, grandpa has some candies here. Be good, come down. No, mom said, if you lie once, you are not a good boy. You are not a good boy. Jia didn't want to be fooled anymore. Well, I can't even say that I am a grandfather this time. The master drug addict, who was classified as a bad boy, followed Xiaoqikai as he ran towards the outside world with a dumbfounded expression. The northeastern wild tiger tried his best to operate the battleship and was almost speechless. When I went to arrest the Geo family, I didn't expect to invite such a young ancestor. The commotion here is still going on, but the big mosquito is facing this challenge urgently. That's right. It's a challenge. Whether it is for Jia Yan or for the entire giant Mosquito Earth Alliance, it is an unimaginably huge challenge. Traitors appeared in the newly created Earth fleet, which even caused a huge negative impact on the Earth. Now there is something about the Geo family, the imperial relatives, who were attacked in the return city, and a child was abducted by the traitors. Has been rapidly spread among the people, and has become more and more widespread. This is not just as simple as the Geo family being captured. In the eyes of every Earthling, it is a slap in the face of giant Mosquito. The Earth fleet has a huge stain from the beginning, and even the people in the Order became confused about the Earth fleet, something they were originally looking forward to. The loophole was exploited so easily. Fortunately, the battleship this time was not attacking the entire Earth. Otherwise, the 100-meter class battleship would have been able to destroy several cities without air defense systems. Not only has the prestige of the Earth fleet reached its lowest point, but even Jia Yan, the giant mosquito, has been affected, and some people have begun to question his policies. It's just that Jia Yan doesn't care about that much at this time. Don't worry, I will definitely bring little Kikai back. After all, I am also her uncle. The towering figure like a mountain made a crisp sound in the air. In front of him was the Geo family castle with a messy scene. Although most of the Geo family had not agreed to build such a luxurious residence before, Big Mosquito insisted. In fact, similar buildings were already common on the Earth. As long as people who have confidence in the future can ask construction robots to help build similar houses automatically, so they reluctantly agree to live in such a luxurious building. But at this time, the chaos here seemed to be a scene that made people laugh at Jia Yan. Giving his family a good environment but failing to ensure their safety is simply putting the cart before the horse. Jia Yan needs to reflect on his approach. After conveying his feelings, he went to Shuyuan. Jia Yan flapped his wings and almost flew. Xiao Yan. Suddenly, a voice that seemed to have the courage to shout sounded from behind Jia Yan. The sound was not offensive, but it was like an unimaginably powerful attack, causing Jia Yan's huge body to tremble violently. Xiao Yan. How long have you not heard this title? An inexplicable emotion filled Jia Yan's mind. Almost at this moment, he turned around and wanted to admit it loudly and say everything loudly. But at this time, he didn't do it, not for any other reason, but because he knew that he couldn't do it. Even though everyone had guesses, even at this moment, his father Jia Sheng still shouted this directly in front of him. However, Jia Yan's stagnant attitude seemed to indicate something. The voice from behind became more shaky. Xiao Yan, you, work hard, we all believe in you. After saying all this, the owner of the voice seemed to be choked by something and could not say any more words. Jia Yan was silent for a while, and the air seemed to be stagnant. But not long after, his wings finally started to vibrate. Towards the sky, it streaked as fast as lightning. Boom 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 boom. That huge figure looked like it was running away, escaping quickly. The quality of the article may have been problematic some time ago, but there is no way to modify it. Next step will speed up the progress of the plot. I hope everyone can still come to support the original version. Too many subscriptions have been lost, which is a bit sad. Remember to subscribe, the one who supports by you the most. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 524. A huge figure was flying in the air. Read book. O. Under the ground, Jia Yan's figure, although huge, was not similar to that of a human being. Have you been recognized by your family? This emotion was so difficult to understand that Jia Yan couldn't let it go. He didn't know what went wrong, so that the Geo family actually recognized him in such a situation where they were talking about it all day and night. Maybe it's because you're too close to your family. Or maybe it was the constant help that made them relate. In short, Jia Yan's mind was in a mess at this time, and he felt a little unable to react. Such a powerful man would actually feel caught off guard when faced with such a situation, which shows how terrifying the current situation is. It's more about emotions. Jia Yan doesn't want his family to know that his big mosquito is his former son. Even if they think he is dead, it is better than letting them know that Jia Yan has now become such a terrifying giant mosquito monster. Actually, if you think about it carefully, I have too many flaws. After a while, Jia Yan smiled bitterly, laughing helplessly in his heart. He knew that he had done many wrong things and made many inappropriate remarks in front of his family. It would be strange if the Jia family did not recognize him at this time. After all, deep down in his heart, he still wanted to get closer to his only relatives. Otherwise, how could he have exposed so many flaws? It's useless to think so much. How to face them in the future? Let's talk about the future. The most important thing now is to rescue my niece. You know, she is the only descendant of our Jia family. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's flying speed suddenly increased. The giant mosquito sprinted towards the outer space of the Earth and rose into the sky. For some reason, the aircraft remained parked above the Earth and did not land. This time I will send the aircraft over and kill those two people if I have the chance. If nothing can be done, then it is not a bad idea to give the aircraft to them. Just let them go. They will definitely be a trouble in the future. Jia Yan was also helpless. Speaking of which, the aircraft did not meet the requirements of the two people who wanted to travel the universe. However, in the past, the scientists brought by Jia Yan had improved the power and improved the aircraft. The entrance to the curvature space engine was originally reserved in China, so it made a breakthrough in technology and transformed it to have the most basic ability to travel among the stars. However, it has not been tested and does not have any safety guarantee. It is uncertain whether unknown failures will occur. Sir, I think we can install a spy program in the spacecraft, which is absolutely impossible for people on Earth to crack. Then we can control their actions. An Earth City scientist gave advice to Jia Yan. No, I don't want to cause trouble. As long as they hand over the hostages, everything else doesn't matter, Jia Yan said calmly at this time. At least install the tracking program. If they go back on their word, we at least have a way to track them. The scientist proposed again with some surprise. He originally thought that the big mosquito would definitely agree with his approach. That's okay, but you have to be careful. If the other party finds out and hurts a finger of the hostage, I'm the only one asking you. Jia Yan thought for a while and agreed with the other party's words. However, they are carrying out a series of operations here and are still worried about the safety of the hostage. If they knew what this so-called hostage looked like now, they would definitely laugh or cry. The little girl Jiachi that everyone is paying attention to is throwing a tantrum right now. I want to eat. I'm hungry. Okay. Come down first. Grandpa can give you a biscuit, okay? No, throw it to me. The little girl was flying in the sky with an expression like, don't try to lie to this little girl. She flew for a long time. Although the gravity in the universe became smaller, for her, this kind of flight was still extremely energy consuming. So Kikai was a little tired at this time. However, she still didn't land, as she wanted to play to the end with the weird grandpa who was chasing him below. The Earth battleship is actually not very high. There are 5 floors in the 100-meter battleship. Each floor has a different height. The tallest one is only 5 meters high, and the lower ones are only 3 meters. When Kikai is flying now, she is only more than 1 meter away from the addict. Okay, I'll throw it to you. The addict took out a bagged piece of bread from the fleet uniform and threw it to the little girl. Just when Kikai reached out to pick it up, he instantly shot up, jumping towards Chiachi, who stretched out her chubby little hands to grab the bread bag. He was like a rabbit rising and a falcon falling, his speed was unbelievable. You must know that he is a strong person among Earthlings. He has been struggling in the metal monster apocalypse for so long, so he naturally has his own strength. At this time, the arrest with a leap is just one of his methods. But just at the moment when the addict is about to touch little Kikai's legs, bo! A slight fluctuation of brainwave power explodes in the addict's mind. The addict let out a muffled groan, and his body became a little weak and fell to the ground. Kikai's face paled. Although she used her brainwave power to defend herself, she was already tired. After all, he is still young. In one breath, she had already grabbed the bun in her hand. Bad guy. I'm leaving, Kikai snorted coldly, like a proud little peacock, her body swaying in the air, and floated away. The addict is holding his head, feeling some unbearable pain. You know, although this naughty boy's brainwave power is not strong, he has been attacked no less than 10 times so far. The attacks on his mind are repeated, and the cumulative damage is extremely terrible. He could only watch the little girl slowly fly away. As if thinking of something, he touched his waist. Click. He took out a cosmic gun that had been improved by a strong man from Earth City. The somewhat shaky figure of Xiao Kikai appeared in his mind. But for some reason, the addict put down the gun again. Forget it, no matter how she hides, she will never leave the battleship. If she is shot and injured now, the giant mosquito will go crazy. He didn't mean well, but at this time, he was afraid of the giant mosquito with unknown abilities. A starry sky-level powerhouse, in the eyes of drug addicts, is something that should never be messed with, but he cannot withstand the lobbying of the Siberian wild tigers. In addition, they have an old enmity with the giant mosquitoes. Now the entire Earth is under the influence of the giant mosquitoes. Under control, they might be discovered by big mosquitoes at any time. There is no other way to take such risks. As for whether the big mosquito would tamper with the next spacecraft, they were naturally on guard, and according to their previous observations and estimates, even if they tampered with it, as long as they couldn't move without it, they would have a great chance. You can escape. Because they discovered that it was impossible for monsters such as giant mosquitoes to chase down ordinary battleships. Tear it apart. In a small area, the little man hid there and tore open the food packaging bag in his hand. She took out the bun and Kikai took a bite. Mom, Kikai wants to go to sleep at this time, tears rolled down the little girl's watery eyes. She wiped the corners of her eyes with her fleshy little hands, but more tears rolled down her eyes. When she wiped them with her dirty little hands, her originally tender and white face suddenly turned into a cat face. Kikai was tired from playing and wanted to sleep, but found that her mother, who had been by her side, did not come with her. At this time, she also realized something was wrong. This little baby is still very smart, otherwise how could he possibly understand the method of getting started with the power of brain waves? She just passed through a small door and found several battleship soldiers lying on the ground. Kikai thought they were asleep, so she stepped forward to say hello, but she didn't get any response. Children who have experienced the crisis of metal monsters, even such a young child, have some vague knowledge of the word death, so they immediately have a sense of fear. These are bad people. Kikai, stop playing with them. Kikai made a decision. Chiachi is young, so even though most people would never be full after eating that small piece of bread, by the time she finished eating, she was already 70% full. The little girl was too sleepy. She looked around and realized that it was not easy to find here, so she yawned and lay down to sleep. She felt comfortable sleeping this time, but the addict, the strong man responsible for taking care of her, was hard to find. Little Kikai, Where are you? Grandpa came to play with you. Every time he passed a battleship space, he would shout like this, hoping that the little guy who hadn't understood what was happening now could come out on his own. But I didn't expect that after searching for more than an hour, I still couldn't find it. How is it possible? Did she know that we were not joking with her, so she hid? For such a young child, addicts find it impossible. But at this moment, he couldn't help but not believe it. Otherwise, how can we explain that this child disappeared all of a sudden without making any sound? He never thought that Kikai would find a place where no one was and hide and sleep. Wait until more than an hour has passed. The addict was already a little sleepy, and the Siberian wild tiger operating the battleship was even more embarrassed. He never thought that operating a battleship in the air and just keeping the engine running at a stage where he could escape at any time would be a waste of his time. Most of the energy. In the small space, little Kikai has opened her eyes. Mom, as soon as she got up, she looked around with her head still confused, and found that it was not a familiar place, and her mother was not around. She flattened her little mouth, grinning and wanting to cry. However, she regained some of her consciousness immediately, and tears fell in a puddle, but she held back from crying. Yeah, you are bad guys. Kikai wants to beat you up. The little girl was angry. She vaguely analyzed that the reason why she couldn't find her mother now was because of the bad guys who played hide and seek with her just now. Since they are bad guys, those teachers said that the bad guy Kikai must be beaten. Kikai took a good nap, and the child recovered quickly, so her brainwave power has been fully restored. After she clearly distinguished her opponent, she quietly poked her head around and found that there was no one in the computer room where she was, and flew directly towards the outside world. Yahoo! Please turn on the camera inside the ship and see where that little thing is. I can go over and catch her. Why are you bothering me? Do you know how difficult it is to operate a battleship alone? It's already too difficult for me to operate it without turning off the engine. I don't have time to help you turn on the camera. Besides, I didn't see you catch it just now. In the cockpit at the center of the battleship, the two adults were already quarreling. The drug addict wants to find the location of Jiakai, the naughty kid, but the Siberian wild tiger really doesn't have any energy to help him turn on the camera. However, neither of them was too worried. The more dangerous places in the battleship were protected. It was impossible for her, a child like a baby, to get in. As for whether she can escape, this is the universe, and nothing is possible. So even the addicts stopped talking. Anyway, it's time. The child will always come out on his own. Okay, they may be here in a few hours. We just wait to receive their spaceship. The Siberian wild tiger analyzed the message received covertly, and then smiled meaningfully. The addict put aside Jiachi's question and smiled at this time. Anyway, he didn't want to take care of that naughty kid anymore. When her uncle Giant Mosquito comes over, he will come out. Of course, she would have to stay with them for a while longer. After all, if they were at a very close distance, they would have no way to deal with the mosquito attack. When the time comes, we must make that big mosquito stop hundreds of kilometers away. His speed is too close and we can't bear it, and his brainwave power is too much for us. They thought about it quite carefully. But they obviously forgot that the big mosquito is not the only one who has the power of brain waves. His little niece also has the power of brain waves. Before, she was just joking with the two guys, but now Xiao Kikai was completely angry. I didn't have my mother to comfort me when I slept just now, so the naughty child Kikai was really angry. Outside the cockpit, Kikai flew out. She didn't deliberately whisper, but because she was flying, she didn't make any sound. Therefore, the arrival was almost invisible, and the two masters with their backs to her did not notice it. While the two grown men were still discussing how to deal with the big mosquito. Yeah. Kikai will beat you up. A cute and childish cry suddenly rang above the two of them. After that, the addict only felt a severe impact in his head from the brainwave power contained in the cry. For the first time in her life, without her mother to coax her to sleep, little Jackie was going crazy. Her brainwave power was unleashed without any mercy. If the top officer of the Carry fleet who taught Kikai how to attack with brainwave power was here, he would definitely be shocked by the power that little Kikai exploded. You know, the main purpose of these Earth City experts in teaching little Kikai is to please the adult Jia Yan. As for such a little kid, how much she can learn, these people really don't care. But none of them thought that Kikai usually just didn't think it was fun and didn't show it. In fact, she could remember everyone. Now the attack unfolds. Boom. The addict only felt a clear roar in his mind. He felt that the world began to turn upside down, his body was swaying, and blood immediately flowed from his mouth and nose. His legs and feet did not obey the command at all, and fell towards the ground. As for the Siberian wild tiger, its body was stronger, but under the influence of this strange power, there seemed to be hundreds of little Kikai screams in its head, giving it a splitting headache and almost fainting. He screamed and jumped up from the driver's seat. But what he received was a small chubby leg. Kick kick kick, kiki kick kick. Jia didn't care at all that the force of her kicks might not be as harmful as the damage she caused to the opponent by her curses, so she just kicked and kicked the Siberian wild tiger on the forehead. This was originally a good opportunity to catch her, but now the Siberian wild tiger is dizzy and mentally weak, and can't even lift a finger. Bad guy. Take Kikai to find her mother. Bad guy. Kikai wants her mother. Cursing and cursing, as if thinking of Jialin, whom he had not seen for several hours, the naughty child couldn't hold back his tears and rolled down one by one. Well, now there are two big men, one is soft on the ground and can't move at all, and the other can barely stand, but can't raise his hand to resist. They were all hit hard by the brainwave power of the naughty boy. She herself was flying while calling her mother, with runny nose mixed with tears, and she was crying terribly. Everyone is so miserable, it seems like a battle with no winner. But you have to know that two great masters are facing a little kid who is not even 4 years old. The naughty child didn't even care that she had accomplished something that was probably impossible for most people on Earth, and was crying loudly. The northeastern wild tiger slowly regained his ability to move. You must know that he has undergone the mutation of the medicinal liquid. After so many years of accumulation, he almost has the strength close to the Earth-level powerhouse. If not for the brain wave, the experience of strength confrontation, it is impossible to be so embarrassed now. I just didn't operate it, and the spacecraft engine has been shut down. It will start up later, and it will take at least a minute to warm up the engine. I may not be able to do more than that by myself. He barely managed to move his fingers, which were trembling as he tried to touch the buttons on the operating screen. But before he could touch it, a bright communication tone suddenly rang on the driver's seat. Huh? How is it possible? This is actually an encrypted signal. The big mosquito is coming so soon. His expression changed drastically. It's okay for the mosquitoes to come earlier, but their current state. The Siberian wild tiger looked angrily at the little girl floating above them, crying constantly. He wanted to launch an attack on her at this time and regain control, but due to the invasion of brainwave power, he became there is no power at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 525. The Siberian wild tiger got up staggeringly, and the naughty kid in the sky just cried and didn't pay attention to him. Nothing can be done. Let's take the small spare boat in the battleship. Let's go. Helping the drug addict who couldn't stand up at all and was still shaking like a rocker, The two Siberian wild tigers staggered and ran towards the passage of the battleship. And behind them, the naughty child who made them terrified seemed to be narcissistic, and the more he cried, the sadder he became. Bastard, we are the ones who should be sad, okay. At this time, the northeast wild tiger was crying in his heart. Not long after, an aircraft that seemed to be only about 5 meters long emitted a dim light. Under the huge thrust of the battleship itself, it instantly cut through the starry sky at an extremely fast speed and flew away far away. Almost 3 minutes passed. A huge figure and a huge aircraft in flight were shot towards this place. Sir, are you worrying too much? If we get close now, they might attack little Princess Kikai. They didn't reply, maybe they've already taken action. Or, what accident happened? The huge figure is having a conversation with the characters in the aircraft. But he soon stopped talking. Because within sight, he actually saw the battleship that logically could not still be here. No matter what accident happened, they even really killed Xiao Kikai. You shouldn't stay here either. Jia Yan was a little confused, and even the Earth City subordinate in the battleship was a little surprised. They had originally formulated some strategies, that is, they asked their subordinate to come up with a Huanga bitter meat plan, and combined with the built-in means of sending this aircraft, they ensured that these two daring guys could be caught. But I didn't expect that such a strange thing would happen. If they are still in the battleship, they will definitely respond. Either things have changed and they left, or there is something wrong with the battleship. Jia Yan had no doubts about the quality of the warships produced on Earth, so at this time he felt that there must be something wrong. He became even more anxious in his heart, and he didn't care about other things. Even if there was something really wrong with this battleship, he couldn't care less about questioning the quality of the Earth battleship. Now the only thought in his heart is to rescue little Kikai. Although he didn't hold out much hope, Jia Yan still activated his brainwave power while approaching the battleship a few hundred meters away. A powerful brainwave power that far exceeded Jiakai's and most alien creatures began to surge. Sure enough, the small escape boat that every Earth battleship is equipped with at the rear of the battleship has disappeared. Jia Yan first scanned the rear of the battleship, and he suddenly became a little angry. There must be a functional problem with this battleship. As expected, Jia was taken away directly by those two old acquaintances. Jia Yan could hardly conceal his anger when he thought that his lovely little niece might be involved in another incident, and that she might be crying in that small escape boat. You know, he really likes this cute little niece. Huh, just when Jia Yan almost gave up and casually swept his brainwave power into the cockpit of the battleship, he felt an incredible shock in his heart. Kikai. How is that possible? Even though Big Mosquito had experienced many things, he still wanted to make weird noises in surprise at this moment. After all, a scene that was impossible to imagine actually appeared in front of Jia Yan. Little Kikai was actually in the cockpit intact. Although she was crying, there was nothing wrong with her whole body. However, the two guys, Northeastern Wild Tiger and Addict, did not show any sign of them. At this time, how could Jia Yan not raise a surprised question? Kikai is hungry, Dad, Mom, Grandpa, Grandma, Uncle. Kikai is hungry. The little girl had runny nose and tears. She looked around and saw that the two bad guys were gone. She felt that she was crying too much and that no one wanted her anymore. Thinking of the sadness, she cried even more sadly. Kikai, Uncle is here. Don't cry. Suddenly, a gentle voice appeared in the little baby girl's ears. Uncle, Kikai looked around in surprise, but found nothing. Uncle will go in to pick you up later. Don't cry. Uncle is outside. Naturally, Jia Yan could not enter the battleship, so he looked at the crying Jia in the battleship through the power of his brain waves, comforted her, and asked her about what happened before. Jia Yan wanted to break his head, but he couldn't imagine what happened. It is not easy to distinguish the description of Jiakai, a 3-year-old child. Jia Yan could only briefly judge what happened through Kikai's description in a few words. These bad guys played hide and seek with her? Then Kikai flew up. This should be the reason why her brainwave power can fly in a low-gravity environment. But what happens next? Kikai said that she found out that the other party was a bad person, hid herself to sleep, and then beat them up. Jia Yan found that he couldn't understand the thoughts of such a child. How could he so easily turn out that the other party was a bad person? Then this seemingly harmless little niece was able to beat away those two extremely powerful figures among the Earthlings. She must have learned the attack method of brainwave power from a strong person in some Earth city. Jia Yan roughly analyzed what happened and was simply amazed. He never thought that the little kid Jia Qi could solve the incident that almost drove him crazy. Anyway, this little girl is amazing. Should I say that she deserves to be my niece? Or should I say that she deserves to be the daughter of Xiaolin's bold sister? Jia Yan was almost overwhelmed by the feat of a 3-year-old kid who could solve a cosmic kidnapping case on his own. Kikai is awesome. Little Kikai was extremely pleasantly surprised when she heard her uncle say her powerful words in a gentle voice. You must know that although Xiao Kikai is small, she also vaguely knows about the big mosquito that everyone has been praising. This uncle who looks nothing like them may be an incredibly great person. But at this moment, such a great uncle Mosquito actually said to her personally, Kikai is very powerful. This was a big surprise for Xiaonazai. Kikai is very powerful. Kikai happily floated in the air. He hit the metal wall of the battleship. It doesn't hurt. Kikai is amazing, she cried while sobbing and clenching her fists with tears rolling to the ground. But after this incident, she didn't dare to fly anymore. She stood on the ground, waiting for the uncle Jia Yan said to enter the battleship. Not long after, the strong man from Earth City who was traveling with Jia Yan actually opened the battleship hatch through a cracking method. What happened after that was simple. The Earth City scientist connected the two aircraft in series and operated them together to fly towards the Earth. There are two sides to the story. Here is a happy ending, but on the other side it is doomed not to get a good result. At this time, the Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict finally recovered from the dizziness caused by the attack of brainwave power. Next time if I encounter the power of brainwaves, I will never miss it so easily. The Siberian wild tiger operated the escape boat and looked around at the same time. He knew that the escape boat did not have much energy. They could only analyze the path to the Earth, and the energy to return to the Earth was estimated to be enough. The Earth is over there. It's even more dangerous to go back now, but there's no other place to stay. It's impossible not to go back. The Siberian wild tiger sighed. He didn't know. One step was wrong and the other was wrong. If they go back now, what awaits them will be nothing but a dragnet. But the energy of the escape boat cannot support them to escape further. What's more, where else can they escape in the solar system? He gave a driving direction. However, their escape boat did not turn around as the Siberian wild tiger expected. Instead, it became uncontrollable and slowly moved forward. What? The Siberian wild tiger's face changed drastically, and the drug addict who was still a little paralyzed looked at the operation in his hand in horror. No matter how he operated, the escape boat could not move. He even simply turned off the power engine of the escape boat. However, the escape boat that lost energy was still so weird, maintaining a stable speed and slowly moving forward. This. The Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict looked at each other, both showing expressions of awe and horror. It's a place not far from these two people. In this starry sky, an aircraft does not look very eye-catching. It does not have much characteristics, quietly stagnating among the stars. In this aircraft, a man who looks basically the same as a human is rapidly making and mapping parts and products one by one. Wow, ha ha ha, these two guys are so stupid. They thought they could go back. It's funny. It's so funny. You showed me something interesting. I have decided that they will be my servants from now on and help me do things from now on, ha ha ha. The nervous expression of the big mosquito is so beautiful. Ouch, my stomach hurts from laughing. No, no, I wasted 10 seconds 1 minute, one less part to make. The man moved faster. He looked at the extremely simple screen in front of him, but on the screen, monitoring images of several areas were displayed. If anyone could see these surveillance images, they would definitely be horrified. Because what is shown above is not only the ones on the Earth, but also the lunar bases, and even the wars that took place in the Kuiper belt at the edge of the distant solar system are also clearly revealed in the picture. Ha ha ha, and you fools. You are all big fools, and you are being played around by me. Immediately, when the exploration ship comes, my plan can be implemented. By then, you will all know, I am the most powerful scientist in this century and in this starry sky, ha 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 ha. The man laughed wildly. On the Earth, a huge 100-meter warship descended towards the ground. This time, the giant Mosquito Earth Alliance had become extremely nervous because of yesterday's incident. Even though they had been ventilated in advance, they still verified the passkey twice and verified the identity of the members before letting them go. Returning to the city, the number of Earthlings here has become much smaller in one night. Some people were killed or injured due to the battleship attack yesterday. Some people fled overnight after seeing what happened yesterday. For them, it is better not to live in such a dangerous city. Those businessmen who have hoarded real estate and want to resell it, now see the houses that have dropped a lot in price overnight, and they all want to cry without tears. Of course, these things have nothing to do with the Geo family living here. They just looked at the huge battleship falling in the sky with great anticipation. On the side of the battleship that glowed with a faint luster was Jia Yan's majestic body, although smaller than the battleship, but his majesty was completely overwhelming. Jia Yan was suddenly startled when he saw the long-awaited figures of his relatives on the hill below. He did take Jia Qi back, but the incident where Jia's father Jia Sheng tentatively called him Xiao Yan has not passed yet. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want to face this. Because although he is still him inside, even Jia Yan thinks that he is still a member of the Jia family, but after all, he is now a giant mosquito of a different kind of human being. His identity is too sensitive, and he is not sure whether he wants to restore the relationship with his family. He even doesn't feel that if he admits this matter, his family will accept it directly. Forget it, don't admit or deny this matter, just keep it in everyone's heart. It's okay to keep it as an unspoken secret. Thinking of this, Jia Yan felt a little better. Finally, the 100-meter warship landed slowly in the castle garden where the Jia family lived. Mom, as soon as the hatch opened, Jia Qi's little figure ran out and threw herself into Jia Lin's arms. Now the naughty child and the powerful Kikai were gone. She cried like a big tabby cat, with tear stains on her fat baby face. Haha, thank you very much, Mr. Assassin. As his father, the former killer Xiao Ao also showed a smile, raised his head high, and expressed his sincere gratitude to Jia Yan, who even though he was slightly prostrate, his eyes were still at a height of 5 meters. You don't need to thank me, Kikai is also my niece. Jia Yan had always been indifferent to this guy, and now he responded coldly. As expected, Jia Yan did not respond to the title mentioned by Jia Sheng before, nor did he make any positive response. And Jia Kai below, after crying in her mother's arms for a while eating her favorite jelly, she talked about her heroic deeds in her mother's arms. Kikai is very powerful. Kikai hits the bad guy with a bang, and the bad guy runs away with a bang. Almost no one could understand what she said, but the little guy still started dancing, and then simply activated his brainwave power, and he floated up with some difficulty, kicking in the air. She has a father who is a killer and a mother who is daring, and now she has gained such terrifying power. It seems that no one knows what a terrible naughty kid this naughty kid will become in the future. Jia Yan looked at Jia Qi strangely, then apologized and fluttered his wings. Finally, Kikai was rescued. Although the two guys were not caught, since they did not return to Earth, they must have died on an alien planet. You know, the escape boat those two guys were on was not something with a long endurance. The exercises on the moon must be almost over. The official departure is tomorrow. It's still too late to get there now. Jia Yan was wearing dark armor, as if he couldn't wait to fight after a year of dust. The same is true for Jia Yan. He has always been a creature who has fought. Now he has been at peace for so long. Even because of the Earth's affairs, he has dealt with many things that he should not have learned. At this time, he feels that his body has become rusty. The desire for battle, the feeling of experiencing real life between life and death, has flourished again. His desire to fight suddenly broke out. At this time, the battlefield far away at the edge of the solar system has entered a strange state. Sir, I can almost confirm that there are only a very few of them. Even in the past few days, only one of those poor aircrafts has come to attack us every day. I think we can follow the traces and kill them in one go. Destroy. Don't worry. Maybe this is the conspiracy of the Rulan Empire people. Sir, you have seen it too. The performance of these aircraft is not even as good as children's toys. Even if they are from the Rulan Empire, they are definitely not sent by the exploration ship. You must not be dragged here by such things. Even if we don't fight them, just speed up and leave this airspace. It's probably impossible for their aircraft to catch up with us at that speed. No rush. What if this is their true purpose? What if they want us to have a hasty battle with their exploration ship without preparation? Sir. In the huge 10.5-kilometer combat aircraft carrier, the sound of two people talking continuously echoed in the command cabin. The quarrel even made the low-level operators around them look at each other speechlessly. What was at issue was the highest officer and a staff officer on their battleship. In fact, what the staff officer said was not wrong at all. After so many days, everyone in the bookstore saw that the ones attacking them were actually just small aircraft. Because they were so attacked on the first day, they were frightened by the appearance of so many aircrafts, so even after that, almost only one of these aircrafts appeared every day, but they were still forced by the top officer to be on the utmost vigilance. Relying on these things almost dragged the pace of their exploration ship to the lowest point. And just behind their huge and unparalleled battleship, a wave of extremely simple small aircraft followed behind them. Haha, Lord De Funy really has no clue. Even the character of the highest officer of the other party has been calculated so accurately. In a 50-meter simple aircraft, a scholar from Earth City acted as the commander of the temporary aircraft team. At this time, he had great admiration for Daphne's judgment. That's right. The top officer of the exploration ship existed 300 years ago. At that time, Daphne had already been created by the Rulan civilization, so there was a certain judgment on this person's character. But now, this officer may not have thought that he was actually plotted by a biochemical man he saw 300 years ago. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 526. Increase the output power. Do you want me to teach you about this? It seems that you didn't learn anything at all from this exercise. Ship number 242, why did you rush out again? Stay in formation. You little bastards are not worthy of being my subordinates. If you tell me, don't say it was a battleship taught by me. I can't afford that person. In the vast universe, flying vehicles that sprayed flames flew quickly forward. These spaceships are the powerful Earth fleet that the Earth has spent a year and finally finished. 1 year is not a long time for most lives, but the people on Earth relied on the support of the giant Mosquito clan to unleash their own racial explosive power and transform the Earth into a different look. Today's battleships already have a similar look. Surrounding these battleships, there is a huge black shadow, mixed in the battleship team, flying quietly. He is Jia Yan. He listened to Kari's continuous scolding in the communicator, but he still couldn't hide his proud mood, and he also had a faint smile. This is already the third day of departure from the moon base. And Jia Yan also saw that the results of the 2-day exercise were quite good. Originally, the members of the Earth fleet seemed to be extremely amateurs due to insufficient running time, but now they have changed. It seems that they are not so amateurs at most. It's just jerky. The technology of operating a warship is inherently a very difficult job. Well, the matter of the 2 Northeast Wild Tigers is over. As for the Earth, although there has been a slight disturbance, they are already tied to me as grasshoppers. It is impossible for similar rebellions to continue no matter what. Guy. Jia Yan is still very concerned about the safety of his family. This time he left, he has arranged many means to ensure that even if the Jia family is attacked again, they will not be kidnapped so easily. The next step is to return to Earth this time. The real big thing. That is to find a way to fight against the Asta exploration ship. When Jia Yan thought of this, the faint light in his eyes flickered. The newly established Earth fleet's combat effectiveness is definitely insufficient, but they don't need to fight head-on. Judging from the information transmitted from the front, the plan given by Daphne is still worthy of recognition. The top officer of the exploration ship who has never met before is definitely a suspicious and seriously ill person. Perhaps this suspicion has been aggravated by the loss of the semi-combat aircraft carrier, which is why this terrifying war machine is acting extremely cowardly now, but this does not prove that the opponent is weak. Jia Yan knows that facing an opponent of this level, his fighting power may not be of much help, and may even only change the situation. After all, those who can destroy semi-combat aircraft carriers are top-notch starry sky-level masters of biochemical empires or Zerg generals. But his strength has actually not reached that level yet. However, if my combat power breaks out at this time, it won't be too different. I may not be able to destroy a battleship of that level, but I can easily escape without any damage. Thinking of these, the confidence in Jia Yan's heart filled the air again. Only alien beings who have reached the strength of his subordinates will understand the real gap between Jia Yan, the master assassin, and them. It seems that the Mosquito can now wear equipment and roam freely in the vacuum of space. Those warships are flying together and using some rope equipment to pull it, but the speed has not dropped. Jia Yan can fly in the queue like a battleship. As for the other Earth City powerhouses, let alone flying at such a fast speed, it is impossible for them to remain active in the universe for such a long time. After all, in the universe, there is not only the problem of not being able to breathe, but also all kinds of radiation. It is impossible for ordinary living things to survive for long in such a harsh environment. Sir, if we move forward like this, it will take almost a few months before we can confront those intruders. Report to me the specific calculations. Okay, according to the speed of the other party's advance and our past speed, we will encounter them almost outside the orbit of Jupiter. But we can reach the Jupiter area first. Jupiter. The big Mosquito fell into silence. He knew that although the other party's arrival was said to be slow, it was actually not slow. And they were much slower in dispatching, so it was not a strange thing to encounter them in the direction of Jupiter. Then what do you think is the possibility of them landing on Jupiter? Jia Yan knew that an extremely huge warship, especially a behemoth like a semi-combat aircraft carrier, would definitely need to replenish energy after making a long-distance space jump. Due to harassment by his subordinates disguised as the Rulan Empire, this semi-combat aircraft carrier did not have supplies. Of course, because the interstellar materials they passed through before were not enough to supply them. But Jupiter is different. The largest planet in the solar system not only has a huge amount of resources, but the satellites it has are also resource-rich stars. In such a resource-rich place, they are likely to fly in for supplies. After all, they were already suspecting that the Rulan Empire had taken the first step, so there was a possibility of encountering a war on Earth. How could the Asta people rashly enter the Earth area without supplies? Sir, I think there is a high possibility that they are supplying supplies in the Jupiter area. Okay, then let's all go there and fight an ambush there. Jia Yan's eyes were shining. He knew, and the other party must also understand, that there was likely to be an ambush on Jupiter, but they must not have known that the ambush was not from the Rulan Empire, but from the indigenous creatures on the planet Earth they were about to attack. Jia Yan didn't know if the fleet he led would achieve victory if they were on guard. It might even be attacked by the opponent and the entire army would be annihilated. However, as long as he was around, he would not allow such a thing to happen. The Earth fleet is fighting against a huge semi-combat aircraft carrier, and the opponent is not as simple as an aircraft carrier. So the only way for their Earth fleet to win is the only possible way. That is to maximize the use of the combat power of Jia Yan's starry sky-level existence. The time spent in the universe cannot be judged by day and night. There is no night here, and there is no night. The only thing there is endless black. Blobs of interstellar matter flew by silently. They were like dead objects with no possibility of movement, wandering endlessly in the dark and deep universe. Maybe one day, it will fall on the Earth, or fly into the sun and turn into a trace of fire. The hulls of the Earth's fleet are often hit by these space materials. However, the design already had a countermeasure against such a substance, so their impact was just like moths falling into a trap, causing the young soldiers to scream in tremors with joy at the sight of them. Jia Yan himself was in the battleship, constantly flying. If the oxygen equipment in the armor ran out of energy, he would enter the largest spacecraft and stay temporarily to replenish energy. These spaceships can carry tens of thousands of people, and the capacity is already insufficient. With the addition of the huge sky-level warriors brought by Jia Yan who are not weak in combat effectiveness, the space is simply stretched. This is also the most important reason why Jia Yan himself flies long distances in the universe. On the one hand, he really wants to exercise his ability to fly long distances in the universe. On the other hand, there is not enough space. The universe is too big, too big. After flying for 2 full months, without day or night, the young soldiers finally recovered from their first long-distance journey into the universe. The ever-changing scenery made their excitement gradually fade away. They began to worry about the next battle, so many children began to train themselves. Even if it's just a little bit, you should try to improve your tactical abilities. But the things you worry about will always come. Finally, at a predetermined time, a huge star appeared in front of all the battleships. It is so huge that it is even far larger than Neptune that Jia Yan has seen with his own eyes before. Apart from the Sun, the most massive star in the solar system, Jupiter. This is a blue planet, with a darker color than Neptune, which seems to represent the mystery and more meaning it contains. What a beautiful planet! Nature is the most perfect in the universe. Among the battleships, Jia Yan's huge body, with a strange emotion, entered the orbit of Jupiter together with the battleships. He considers himself to be a huge monster, but when faced with a real star, he still feels ashamed, let alone such a huge star. In front of Jupiter, Jia Yan and humans may be on the same level. Sir, are we following the plan we discussed before and setting up ambushes in these places? Suddenly, Carrie, the top officer of the Earth fleet, issued an inquiry through the communicator. Well, let's do another simulation calculation. If there are no problems with the plan, let's do it that way, Jia Yan ordered with a little worry. Okay. Carrie answered, and then there was no sound. The fleet continued to move forward, and within a few hours, the huge star, which was still extremely far away, had already arrived in front of us. Jia Yan himself was stunned when he looked at the terrifying huge star in front of him. Or should I say, I was stunned by the beauty of this huge star. To know that such a beautiful thing is still so huge, it is simply Jiayan from the Earth, a rarely seen scenery. He was like this, not to mention the Earth fleet soldiers who saw Jupiter for the first time. They all looked greedily at the scenery outside and lingered. However, the fleet still followed the plan and got closer and closer to the orbit of Jupiter. Sir, in front of you is Ganymede. This planet is extremely large and has an ocean. What we discussed before is to conduct an ambush in the orbit of this planet, because the other party is most likely to obtain certain resources on this planet. Kari's voice was transmitted to Jia Yan's communication device. Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed, and he withdrew his gaze from Jupiter's huge body. After that, he saw a star that was approaching and magnifying in front of his eyes. This is a star that is a pity to be called a satellite. It is as big as a planet, and its surface is also blue and beautiful. It is larger than Mercury, a small planet in the solar system. Its surface is gray, darker than the gray-yellow star Jia Yan stayed at before, but it also has a little more mysterious meaning. Well, it seems like they can't let go here. Let's carry out the scheduled first line of defense here. Jia Yan is actually betting, not only on whether the other party will supply supplies here on Jupiter, but also on whether they will supply supplies on several satellites of the mother planet. In fact, if the bet is wrong, then this so-called ambush it became a joke. However, due to the asymmetry of information, Jia Yan believes that there is a high possibility that the Asta exploration ship will land on Ganymede and seize resources. The Earth fleet suddenly started to move. Among the more than 400 warships, about 200 began to move towards Ganymede. Jia Yan himself was also mixed in, flying towards there. Sir, next, I will take the other half of the battleships to other blocking points. I wish you good military fortune. Kurui's somewhat nervous voice was transmitted directly through the communicator. Go Jia Yan didn't do much to encourage him. He knew that if any of his subordinates made a mistake, they would be in hell. I believe everyone already knows the dangers of this battle. There's no way they can't do their best. Because the distance is too far, the communication equipment in their hands will lose communication with several other branches. At that time, there may even be communication difficulties between battleships due to interference from the other side. At that time, it will all depend on the on-the-spot combat capabilities of both parties. Everything has been done to its best, and the most important part of this war is me. Next, I need to take a good rest to wait for this, which may be the most difficult war for me. Jia Yan thought a lot during this period. Their large group of warships were already approaching Ganymede. According to prior arrangements, 50 warships with fortification capabilities landed on the planet and set up artillery facilities on the ground. The other 150 ships are on standby 50,000 kilometers away from Ganymede. Jia Yan gave the order. Because there are only a few strong men who are good at combat commanding, but they are all assigned to other ambush points. At this time, Jia Yan can only command the 200 battleships by himself. The Earth fleet was quickly divided into several groups. Tactical training and analysis have been carried out countless times. This kind of training goes up to Jia Yan and down to every battleship member, so everyone can quickly understand Jia Yan's orders. 50 warships began to focus on landing on Ganymede. This is a star with an atmosphere, but whether there is life on it has always been a mystery. Even if there is life, it is not advanced intelligent life. So there is no need to worry that this war will destroy the ecology of this planet. Jia Yan looked at the 50 warships that had landed. If his predictions were correct, the final losses of these 50 warships would be the greatest, and it was even very likely that the entire army would be annihilated. But they still landed resolutely. In fact, every member of the battleship had written a suicide note. Although they all knew that if their side was defeated, the Earth would probably be massacred by the enemy immediately, but they still wrote a will. Maybe this is just a kind of sustenance. Okay, these warriors have landed, let's make some arrangements. First of all, the hiding techniques used very well by those who delayed the fleet before. Jia Yan knew that the stealth capabilities of all his warships were not strong. It could even be said that it was impossible to hide from the eyes of the Asta people. So he used the benzene method. Since the method of disguising it as interstellar matter can be used, he will make full use of this technology. The only disadvantage of Jia Yan's side is that there is still too little time to cover the aircraft into the interstellar material as perfectly as those in the Kuiper belt. But it's impossible not to do it. Everyone should carry out the masking work as mentioned in the previous meeting. I wish everyone good luck. After Jia Yan sent this communication, the sparkle in his compound eyes also flickered. His body is relatively small, so he may be exposed even less. At this time, he was directly near Ganymede, found a piece of interstellar material that already existed, exploded with strength, drilled a big hole through it, and hid in it. Fortunately, Jupiter already has planetary rings. During this period, there was a lot of interstellar matter, and it was not a big deal for some of them to change their orbits. Each battleship took advantage of this and simulated the most basic interstellar matter as much as possible, even dragging huge amounts of interstellar matter from distant places to use as their own hiding place. Everything is going on in an orderly manner. However, time passed quickly. Just after they had carried out a series of work, 7 days later. Sir, several adults from Kuiper operations have sent news that the enemy may arrive at Jupiter in 1 day. Carrie sent a message by transcending distance and delivered a voice to Jia Yan. When Jia Yan heard the news, his body was shocked. He encouraged his body to stabilize as much as possible, but he couldn't hide the boiling feeling in his heart. I went to the gray and yellow star just for this moment and traveled thousands of miles back to Earth. For this enemy, even the people of the Earth have mobilized themselves and burst out with work enthusiasm again and again. The entire people of the Earth, and possibly the future, all depend on this battle. Okay. Next, order the entire army to shut down communications and report the exact arrival time. All combat units will act on their own at that time. Please subscribe. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 527. Maybe it's because my writing hasn't been very good recently, so everyone's enthusiasm for subscribing is not as high as before. Bulletin U is also helpless after all. He knows that some plots are not good plots, but they must be written. Fortunately, these are all in the past tense. A more passionate battle is coming soon, and the next development will definitely make everyone unexpected. Please come to Cheateon.com to subscribe. You really needs your support, thank you. When Jia Yan turned off the communication, he felt that his body was still shaking slightly because of the excitement of blood. It's not that he is afraid of the enemy, but that he knows that this battle is no longer the same one he fought before, where it only concerns his own life. It is about the lives of all human beings on the entire Earth. Even if they lose, the Earth will not be left alive. He has read a lot about the planet that has become a mineral planet through those alien materials. So he is feeling slightly excited now. Although there were subordinates everywhere, Jia Yan was hiding alone inside a piece of interstellar material. The absolute coldness around him made his blood almost freeze. In this absolute silence, he vaguely felt the loneliness he felt before. Even with so many subordinates and Earth warriors by his side, Jia Yan is still a little lonely. At this time, Jia Yan had many memories of his past. His memory was filled with many doubts, not only about his rebirth as a mosquito, but also about why he had mutated and even become an extremely powerful person. The evolved beasts, these things are all a mystery to Jia Yan, but now as he becomes more and more powerful, these mysteries are rarely thought of, but for some reason, Jia Yan thinks of them again now. Maybe it's because the war is approaching, so I think of these things again. Jia Yan was somewhat relieved. Indulging in the world of contemplation, time is very easy to pass. The surrounding scenery is still the same, but the battleships that were busy before are missing. The camouflage of these warships has been discussed and said a long time ago, but they are not professionals after all, and coupled with the backward technology, if the other party pays a little more attention, they will definitely find many anomalies in the star field near Ganymede. But the people in the Mosquito army are not facing professional soldiers at all. The former semi-combat aircraft carrier may have been the top combat capability of an interstellar civilization. But now, after 300 years, this top combat power has also reached its twilight years. Not only do they not have much maintenance and testing, most of the personnel on the battleships also have no actual combat experience, and they are even just inferior troops with low quality. The semi-combat aircraft carrier, which no longer had its glory 300 years ago, is now transformed into an exploration ship, carrying a group of people with weak combat capabilities. Even though its actual combat effectiveness is still extremely strong, but the operator is not good enough, no matter what, it's no use. In the interstellar space, a huge and majestic giant appeared in the realm of Jupiter. As for the size of Jupiter, this huge monster did not pay any attention to it. For exploration ships carrying out starry sky missions, gaseous planets like Jupiter are often seen, and even such large-scale planets exist in most star systems. Gas planets, nothing to be surprised about. Of course, they have already investigated the resources in Jupiter. Although the gravity contained in such a huge planet is also extremely terrifying, when it came here 300 years ago, this exploration ship had already stayed on Jupiter and even conducted after some sample testing. Returning here again after 300 years, everything in the exploration ship has changed, and the combat ability has dropped by more than one level. I don't know if the crew members who have lived longer will rise when they see a familiar planet. A little emotional feeling. The spaceship was approaching slowly. Lord Commander, ahead is Jupiter. This gas planet is the largest planet in the star system, and it has many satellites, some of which can replenish energy. Very good. Let's go over immediately to collect and replenish the necessary resources, but everything must be done quickly. On the other side of the Earth, I don't know if the Rulan Empire is collecting star condensation in large quantities. We must not be slow. In the semi-combat aircraft carrier, after a conversation between several senior officials in the ship, the crew members stepped up their preparations. It's not like they didn't investigate whether there was an ambush here, but due to the unprofessionalism of the staff, the work was progressing very slowly at this time. Sir, do we need to conduct some formal testing before getting closer? This is not a safe place. Those annoying little aircraft behind us have not been seen for a long time. I suspect they are carrying out some conspiracy. A female officer was admonishing the commander-in-chief of the semi-combat aircraft carrier. No need. I am very familiar with the Rulan Empire. People in this empire love vanity and pay great attention to the so-called name. The previous sneak attacks are no longer like their style. The ambush here will be done according to their plan. Is impossible to do. Let's move on. But, what if our opponent is not the Rulan Empire at all? No need to say more, let's hurry over and resupply. It will only take a few days. After the resupply, we will be able to regain our full combat effectiveness. We will go to that Earth to snatch the star condensate. Don't you know how important the matter of star condensate is? We are here. Everyone on the ship may be able to return to the Empire because of this. The frail old commander was a little depressed due to the anxious fighting for several days. He uttered reproaches, which made the female officer angry. She said nothing more, but saluted. Step back. But even this female Osta officer never thought that there would actually be an ambush in this starry sky. The huge 10-kilometer aircraft carrier began to approach this starry sky area, and their detection equipment had only activated less than half of its functions. At this moment, each piece of metal and steel wrapped in interstellar matter lit up with its own light. In a battleship, it is impossible to permanently turn off the energy, but when the semi-combat aircraft carrier approaches, they still turn off all equipment except the survival equipment, so that it will be difficult for thermal energy detection to detect them. After all, the distance is too far. As the aircraft carrier continued to approach, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Hopefully it's Ganymede. If it was Ganymede, then it would have entered the encirclement of Earth's battleships head-on, and the guy's ambush in other directions might come to help soon. Every Earthling warrior, regardless of age, is praying in their hearts at this moment. However, at this time, the combat aircraft carrier did not head towards Ganymede as they expected. This huge thing turned around in the air and headed towards the other side of the track. They actually went to the other side. Jia Yan, who was hiding not far from Ganymede, suddenly felt a trace of unwillingness in his heart. If they did not enter the encirclement directly, the ambush combat power of their Earth fleet would be greatly reduced. The most important thing is that his Starry Sky class will be too far away from the semi-combat aircraft carrier. Master Assassin. This team is responsible for intercepting them to your side. Suddenly, a communication from an extremely long distance reached Jia Yan's ears. He was suddenly startled. It was later identified that it was the voice of the leader of a small team in the Earth fleet. And he is also an outstanding driver. He was even promoted to the person in charge of an ambush phalanx because of his good operating skills. It just so happens that the place where the aircraft carrier passed is the area where this team is located. Jia Yan was startled. But during his dazed moment, he was in that area. A battleship seemed to suddenly appear out of the dark night. He was like a speck of dust in the darkness. Compared to the huge 10-kilometer battleship nearby, his 50-meter body was like a child's toy. But when this battleship appeared, it still looked like a resolute warrior. Launched an attack on the semi-combat aircraft carrier. A bright brilliance seemed to penetrate the sky, firing fiercely at the combat aircraft carrier at a very close distance. The semi-combat aircraft carrier was also startled by the sudden appearance of the enemy at this moment, and it did not turn on its protective energy immediately. The brilliance exploded, and a super-strength attack from the 50-meter warship brought a little damage to the 10-kilometer-long body of the combat aircraft carrier. That's right. Just a little bit, it's like a yak with two hairs plucked out. But this little bit of damage also means that this time the ambush battle on Jupiter. The fight officially begins. After the brilliance explodes. The aircraft carrier seemed to have come to its senses at this moment, and a faint light of energy emerged from its body, blocking the warship's second continuous shooting. And his third attack is completely impossible. Because before that, a small cannon from the semi-combat aircraft carrier had already emitted a bright beam of rays, blasting this brave warship directly into the air. There was obviously no sound in the sky and the earth, but through the distance of thousands of kilometers, Jia Yan still saw an Earth warrior talking to him in the battleship, becoming an eternity in the starry sky. However, there are many more heroes. Just as the aircraft carrier destroyed the first Earth battleship, a bright attack brilliance appeared in the air, and attacks were fired at the terrifying huge body of the semi-combat aircraft carrier. The ambushing warships over there seemed to have been agreed upon. At this time, one after another, they took off their disguises, and just like the heroic warships before, they were facing the outside that was too much larger than their warships. The Star Metal monster launched an attack. These brave warriors had never seen what alien warships looked like before, but at this time, they still upheld their passion and dedicated their lives to this war against aliens. Middle. Countless bright brilliance exploded in the air. However, these attacks only caused the semi-combat aircraft carrier's energy shield to move like water ripples, but they were far from being destroyed. Earthling warships cannot attack the aircraft carrier itself, but the opponent's artillery attack can easily tear down their defenses. Since defensive energy similar to the power of brain waves cannot be built by ordinary scientists, Each of these warships on Earth has no protective cover and only uses a metal shell to resist the bombardment of the semi-combat aircraft carrier. But they never imagined that a semi-combat aircraft carrier could dominate the entire starfield hundreds of years ago. It was not that simple. Even though it is now old and many functions have been lost, as long as the artillery fire shines, it can still quickly regain its strong combat effectiveness. A luminous beam shot at the body of the Earth battleship. There were almost 50 Earth battleships that emerged, but after just a few rounds of attacks, more than half of them were missing. Evacuate to Ganymede, quickly. These 50 warships are basically 50-meter class, and their attack power is simply impossible to shake the huge Asta aircraft carrier. One by one, they quickly emitted a fierce propulsion light and jetted towards the location of Ganymede quickly. Look, these battleships actually use ancient flamethrowers, which are based on the same principle as the aircraft that attacked us before. It makes me laugh to death. Can these old antiques pose a threat to us? In the Asta semi-combat aircraft carrier, a soldier operating the gunfire made a mocking sound at the escaping Earth warship in front of him. I also found something even more funny. What they fired was actually a laser, and it was the most primitive burst laser. For us, this kind of attack, let alone energy defense, even if it didn't, laser artillery fire of their caliber, and it will take at least 20 cannons to destroy the shell of our aircraft carrier. One of the Asta soldiers in the aircraft carrier made a mocking sound. They were no more cautious than their captain. They had no idea about the aircraft of the so-called Rolan Empire that had been cruising near their battleship for so long. However, when he saw something similar to technological development, he smiled from ear to ear. Fight! Let these old antiques see the power of truly advanced warships. All artillery operators began to pour firepower in a mocking manner towards the Earth Fleet squadron that was running away like a target. One after another, 50-meter Earth warships exploded in the starry sky and exploded. The living lives above seemed to have completed their final mission, shattering into several petals in the starry sky, or exploding to death in space due to lack of oxygen or excessive pressure in the body. These beings were chatting and chatting with all the fleet members before, but now they died like this one by one. It is even impossible for them to cause any harm to the enemy. Their only contribution is to consume part of the energy of a semi-combat aircraft carrier that does not have much energy. Come here. Hurry. Jia Yan looked at the battle that was so close and kept praying in his heart. He saw all the living lives in his eyes, but now he can't do anything. His only hope is that these comrades will die before they all die. Can lead the aircraft carrier to the Ganymede area. In this case, they can at least save some of the battleships. 50 warships continued to explode in the starry sky, and their number decreased rapidly. They can't even fly faster than the huge aircraft carrier. The performance gap between the two sides is absolutely obvious. All the members of the Earth fleet who were watching the battle were crying from the bottom of their hearts, and some of them had even shed tears. They all knew that the comrades who were fighting at this time were using their blood and lives in exchange for the battle. Keep going. And their only mission is to get the semi-combat aircraft carrier, that is, the exploration ship, to the predetermined ambush location. The brilliance shines again. Of the 50 warships, only the last 3 were left. They were running wildly ahead. However, the combat aircraft carrier at the rear was faster than them. The operator did not even give the artillery behind him a chance to show off. He directly operated the warship and smashed a 50-meter warship into a ball of scrap metal. The scene was extremely bloody and cruel. Come on. Run away. At this time, the battleships that were close to each other were all showing live broadcasts of the current war. One by one, the Earth fleet soldiers looked at their colleagues dying so tragically, and their eyes turned blood red. Even when Jia Yan saw the situation through his compound eyes, he felt a surge of anger in his heart. This exploration ship is simply too deceiving. At this moment, he wished he could fly out and tear apart the combat aircraft carrier alone and sink it. But she couldn't do this at all. Even because the distance was too far, he, a large mosquito creature whose relative speed was very slow in the universe, would only become the opponent's target. So he must endure it. Long live the Earth! Long live the assassin! When one of the last two ships was finally hit by a semi-combat aircraft carrier and turned into debris in the universe, the huge exploration ship of the Asta people finally arrived at a place only about 100 kilometers away from Jiayan and other main ambush teams. This distance is already an area where combat and ambush can definitely be carried out. Attack! At this moment, Jiayan finally doesn't have to endure it anymore. He roared with the power of his brain waves and flew out towards the outside world. At this time, in the area tens of thousands of kilometers near Ganymede, huge pieces of starry sky material suddenly revealed their original appearance. The extremely powerful battleships were like red-eyed demons at this moment, extremely angry towards the exploration ship. Compatriots on more than 50 battleships. This is more than 10,000 people. They were actually killed so many by this exploration ship in such a battle. And it's still killing. How can these Earthling comrades endure this? Suddenly, a total of 200 warships of various sizes finally revealed their clues. The first one to bear the brunt is the giant Mosquito monster that is only about 100 kilometers away from the huge aircraft carrier. The starry sky level terror will be fully demonstrated in this Jupiter battlefield. Kill! Jiayan roared fiercely while flying. Plus or minus meow, dot asterisk, pen plus or minus ge plus or minus, oh. And right in front of him, the last and only 100-meter warship of the ambush team before, seeing all his colleagues standing up, he seemed to be resolute and determined to escape. Moved back fiercely. He still wants to fight? As the last member of the squad, the Earth warriors of the entire battleship must inherit the last wishes of all their comrades. The people on Earth must win this war. Ho 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 ho. Jiayan made a brainwave power tone that he didn't even know what the sound was, and this sound could actually be transmitted in a vacuum and spread far away. The big mosquito is angry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 528. Those primitive battleships rushing to the rescue are not enough evidence, but this creature. In the exploration ship, the detection equipment is wide open. No matter how weak this aircraft carrier battleship is and how poor the quality of its members is, their equipment capabilities and knowledge reserves are still much stronger than the Earth's fleet. After a battle, their combat effectiveness was fully revealed at this time. One by one, combat units entered their posts. But after they analyzed the target of the battle, a figure suddenly appeared and attracted the attention of the whole ship. This creature is actually a starry sky level. Are you kidding me? There is a starry sky level monster in such a remote starry sky. Every member of the exploration ship was stunned. It's like encountering a whale in a ditch. It's simply impossible. But no matter how unbelievable it was, it still happened, and this starry sky level monster did come to them. Even because they were chasing the simple warship before, they were attracted to this monster at this time. With its huge body, there was no possibility of evading it. Facing the creatures in the stars, as long as you keep distance in the universe, you will be safe, but if you can't keep distance, no one knows the outcome of the battle. Fire! Kill this monster! One of the Asta people in the exploration ship was shouting like crazy. At the same time, this powerful battleship launched its own attack. Dozens of medium-sized artillery fires have been fully charged at this time and are aimed in the direction of the big mosquito. The number of small artillery fires reached hundreds, and they were aimed at the various Earth battleships that were launching their attacks. The starry sky level monster is definitely a huge hidden danger, and they will definitely target most of their firepower at this monster. As for the other surrounding warships, they even doubted that even if they stood and let these low-level warships shoot, they would not be able to shoot through their defenses. Jia Yan faced the huge metal monster in front of him. It had been a long time since he had felt such a strong sense of oppression. Even Odawa, who was one of the 5 strongest men in Asta before, could not bring him such terrible oppression. The opponent was too big, with a body of 10 kilometers. From the front, he looked like an unimaginable monster. Jia Yan looked like an ant in front of him. But this ant is powerful enough to kill an elephant. The opponent obviously knew this, so he aimed dozens of secondary main guns at him. Jia Yan's biological instinctive reaction immediately gave him a creepy feeling. He knows that these weapons are things that can really threaten him. But if you don't get close, then all your previous efforts will be in vain, and all the humans who were sacrificed before will become useless. Jia Yan got angry, changed his appearance for a moment, and then continued to move forward. Just when he was in disguise, the dozens of auxiliary main guns of the exploration ship opened fire at almost the same time. The light rising into the sky illuminated the entire starry sky. The light, which was tens of meters thick, shot towards his direction one after another. It was as fast as lightning, and each one was filled with the breath of death. Fortunately, Jia Yan had already moved his position instantly. Most of the light shot where he had flown before. But this is a covering attack. At this time, the rays of light cover the entire starry sky. The distance between Jia Yan and the opponent is less than 100 kilometers. Of course, the opponent can easily cover the entire sky. Scope. Jia Yan felt that he had no time to react, and a fiery light completely covered him. An unbelievable hot flame made him unable to bear it. His antennae and ears seemed to be burned. The extremely hot flames made the armor on his body appear to be melting. Fortunately, Jia Yan's armor was made of extremely scarce alien special metals. It was originally designed to be used as combat armor for starry sky level creatures. How could this armor be completely destroyed so easily? Jia Yan felt that the armor could withstand at least half of the temperature, and its internal cooling facilities were operating rapidly, coupled with the advanced materials, which caused the temperature of the Mosquito's body to rise and then drop again in an instant. Good equipment. I finally know why those alien warriors become so much stronger after putting on the equipment. Seeing this, Jia Yan finally felt relieved, including his subordinates, who all put on their own exclusive equipment. After equipping it, the combat strength will be greatly improved. Only after he experienced it once did he understand how important it is to have a good set of equipment. Or should I say, Jia Yan is already so strong. It's quite surprising that he doesn't have a decent set of equipment yet. The temperature rose instantly, but immediately cooled down a little. Jia Yan was soon able to put his mind to the outside world. At this time, the outside world was still filled with flames of war. Jia Yan found that he was bombarded by the opponent's artillery, and was actually blasted for about 10 kilometers. This was the result of his desperate refusal to retreat. However, time did not pass long. Jia Yanfu's eyes were shining brightly. He noticed that each of the opponent's secondary main guns lit up again. Bring it on. He was fearless and used his brainwave power again. At the same time, a flame suddenly spurted out from the armor equipped on his body. This terrifying armor was not damaged by the previous blow. At least the current flame-throwing equipment can still work. After all, regardless of weight, the protective metal of starry sky level equipment is extremely thick, so special steel can be used to help Jia Yan withstand about half of the artillery energy. Of course, there is another important reason. When the artillery fire approaches, Jia Yan activates his brainwave power to neutralize a lot of energy in a large area of the artillery fire. Otherwise, even special steel may not be able to defend against it. the secondary battery of a space aircraft carrier. Therefore, only starry sky level equipment is most suitable for starry sky level equipment. Creatures of other levels cannot exert their full combat effectiveness even if they can wear it. There was another flash of light in front of his eyes. This time Jia Yan finally looked at the battleship and found a trace of gunfire. He has always been in the fighting state of time slows down. This state is possessed by every powerful creature. It is actually an illusion in a state of extreme concentration. At most, it is just a different feeling. Jia Yan participated in a space battle for the first time. Fighting at this speed was completely different from that on the planet. But it just takes a little getting used to. Artillery attacks in the universe are completely different from those on a planet, or in other words, completely different from those on a planet with an atmosphere, because both thermal weapons and laser and electromagnetic weapons are affected in the atmosphere. Therefore, in order to obtain accuracy or resist interference in the atmosphere, battleships or cannons in the starry sky have many restrictions on the planet, so that the combat effectiveness cannot be compared with that in a vacuum environment. The artillery fire at this time was simply a completely different version of what Jia Yan had seen before. The biggest difference was that the speed at which they were launched was completely different from the aircraft or warships seen on the ground. Jia Yan couldn't adapt at once. But this time, he finally saw a giant cannon that fired first, emitting a bright light. He quickly followed his instinct and ducked to the side. Just after the evasive action was completed, there was a bright light and a shot. Jia Yan felt that he had never seen such a terrifying attack so close. The destructive power of this attack might not be what he was most afraid of, but the opponent's speed was what he found terrifying. Too fast. Too fast, too fast. If Jia Yan hadn't taken action the moment he saw the cannon fire, he would have been unable to dodge it. This reminded him of the disk aircraft he encountered in Qinghai Lake in the Earth's era. If Jia Yan were to judge at this time, he would naturally know that the aircraft at that time was just using something like a forbidden move that wasted energy, and it was just a waste of energy. Fortunately, although his wings were pierced at that time, he was not fatally injured, which was fortunate. Now and then, how could he still be afraid of that kind of attack now? After dodging the first attack, the second one followed. Jia Yan learned to use the peripheral vision of his eyes to detect attacks, and when he saw a light appearing in the corner of his eyes, he immediately evaded it. Jia Yan could hardly guess the speed of this attack, but according to his thoughts, his speed would definitely exceed the speed of sound on the Earth by an unknown number of times, maybe hundreds of times. Although it is still far from the speed of light, it is almost there. There have always been laser weapons in alien civilizations, but although their speed reaches the true speed of light, their attack power is never as powerful as the electromagnetic light of battleships. This is already the 7th generation of alien attack light products, taking into account speed. With such power, it hit the target and detonated instantly. Even Jia Yan felt a headache. The light comes on. Jia Yan helplessly felt that one of his midfoots, which was not equipped with a high level of equipment, was accidentally affected by the attack. He only felt a terrible flame appear under his feet, and then spread to his whole body. However, for the big mosquito at this time, the main pressure point is on the feet. After all, other parts of the body are not the center of the explosion, so there is not much danger. Jia Yan felt a burning pain in his midfoot, as if it was broken. He didn't need to look to know that his feet were definitely scorched by the equipment, and the blue light lit up. But at least it works. Rush. The big mosquito was then attacked on its feet, and its body followed the force and flew in the opposite direction to where the feet were attacked. Because of the power of the explosion, it was like teleporting. None of those giant cannons could catch him in the first place. This reflects the weakness of exploration ship members who are no longer frontline soldiers. They will never truly have the ability of powerful soldiers to control a warship. Close. Just when the other party was confused, Jia Yan finally came within 1 kilometer of this huge exploration ship. At such a close distance, the other party has no time to avoid it. For a big mosquito, 1 kilometer is as close as before your eyes. Bo! Jia Yan's brainwave power exploded. The exploration ship finally responded, but they didn't have much artillery fire that could threaten the big mosquito for something so close. During the flight, Jia Yan felt that the huge metal monster in front of him seemed to be roaring unwillingly. Hundreds of years ago, it was an invincible battleship. Starry Sky aircraft carriers, I think back then, every one of them was a presence across the starry sea. As long as it reached a starry sky, the surrounding empires would be extremely afraid. But now, it has been reduced to the point where it cannot even fight against a starry sky class. If it has normal equipment and normal personnel, how can it be afraid of a mere starry sky class? Only the strongest person in the biochemical empire, the biochemical emperor, can cause serious threats and harm to him. Of course, Jia Yan feels that all this may be just his personal conjecture. At this moment, he recalled the pain he had gone through in order to explore the ship, the experience on the gray-yellow star, and becoming a starry sky level in the golden desert. And return to Earth and kill the metal monsters. Rapid advancement on Mars. Everything is for this moment. Jia Yan didn't know how many creatures and innocent people there were in this battleship. The other party was an enemy. Since he was an enemy, he must deal with it. He gathered all his energy at once. The knife-shaped horns on the front feet may not have faced an opponent for a long time. Jia Yan doesn't even know how powerful the knife-shaped horns on the front feet are after being upgraded on Mars and equipped with armor. A strange brainwave power surrounded the front foot. This kind of energy is the final result of Jia Yan's research on how to penetrate hard things after thinking hard for a long time. Therefore, even if the strength is not improved much, as long as you push what you can do to the limit, there is still a lot of room for improvement. The principle of Jia Yan's energy is not complicated. It just compresses the brainwave power severely at the moment it bursts into the object. The entire forefoot is experiencing compression of brainwave power. The sharper the front end, the more exaggerated this compression is. It's simple to conceive, but it's simply impossible to actually do it. Jia Yan also spent countless energy, constantly groping in the magma pool of Mars, and eventually even wasted a lot of absorbed materials, and failed 5 times before finally succeeding. And now, it's time to reflect his results. Don't worry, this starry sky monster is not strong at all. It is impossible for him to penetrate our battleship defense. In the semi-combat aircraft carrier, many soldiers looked at the scene of big mosquitoes rushing into the battleship's defense. Most of them were absolutely assured of the battleship's defense. After all, this is a star aircraft carrier. It is far beyond what ordinary battleships can match. As expected. Just when they were saying this, the big mosquito in the surveillance screen had already crashed into the aircraft carrier's first line of defense. This is the most powerful part of the aircraft carrier and the source of the soldiers' defense confidence. Energy shield. The energy shields of ordinary battleships are just simple things. They cannot even be called real energy shields. However, because star aircraft carriers can carry a lot of energy, their protective shields are the real protection. Cover. This kind of scientific application based on the power of brainwaves has already reached its peak among aliens. It is definitely not easy to break through the defense at this time. However, Jia Yan's forefoot piercing ability, which he has practiced hard, is also extremely sharp. Then, the conflictual showdown begins. Is the spear sharper or the shield stronger? Just look at the result of the collision between the two sides in the next moment. The focus of the battle has shifted. The Mosquito finally had a head-on duel with the star aircraft carrier, and those Earth fleets that had spent their lives to escort it to the battleship became dilapidated one by one. The remaining soldiers of the Earth fleet are still fighting against the starry aircraft carrier. Although their opponents were only some small artillery fire, they did drag the star aircraft carrier down, causing it to stop and have to face the attack of the giant Mosquito. The reason for stopping is very simple, because the 100-meter class warships of the Earth fleet are loaded with 10-meter cannons from the metal monster red light building. Although this kind of giant cannon is weak in the face of the 20-meter diameter small artillery fire of the star aircraft carrier, if they fire in a salvo, they will also be a huge threat. Therefore, the Starry Sky aircraft carrier had to stop and rush in rashly, which would only cause their defensive cover to be really broken. The ships of the Earth fleet ambushed here, more than half of them were destroyed in just a few moments. There are only more than 90 ships left. And they have lost so much, and the only opportunity they have created is the approach of the big Mosquito this time. If it weren't for them, the aircraft carrier would have launched its own speed at the moment the Mosquito approached. The specific speed is not the top Starry Sky class, and it will never be able to compare with the ships in the universe. So the big Mosquito is finally approaching. What will be the result? Tens of thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield, a silent black shadow seemed to be interested in this. This black shadow was so silent that even the exploration ship with its detection capabilities fully activated could not see him. Ha ha ha, the fight started. It was so intense. A man with unshaven beard and smelly clothes was sitting on a chair with bare feet, laughing. Is not equal to meow is not equal to buy is not equal to ge is not equal to. Beside him, stood two men from Earth who were obedient and seemed to have no temper at all. If anyone on Earth saw them, they would definitely be extremely surprised by the faces of these two men. Because, these are the two traitors from Earth who caused more than 5,000 casualties in the return city and kidnapped a mysterious big man, the Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict. Nowadays, their photos are posted everywhere on the Earth, and anyone on Earth will recognize them. But no one could have imagined that the two people who everyone thought were dead were not only still alive and well, but were even still in this strange black shadow-like aircraft. The identity of the laughing man is even more mysterious than them. It's fun. But, then the fun begins. He smiled and his face turned cold. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 529. Hear the man's words. The Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict suddenly trembled. Jia Yan made an impact, and his front feet had already reached the energy shield of the exploration ship. A dazzling light appeared in the vacuum of the universe. This was not a simple light. Originally, those explosive shooting weapons were deliberately made to emit energy, and Jia Yan's front foot was stabbed with energy. On the protective cover, energy brilliance also burst out. This is different. It is a thing called gamma rays, which are only produced when powerful energy explodes. One of Jia Yan's attacks actually caused terrifying gamma rays. And a kind of radiation energy spreads in all directions. The affected Earth battleships were swaying one by one, as if they would disintegrate at any time. But at this time, Jia Yan could no longer care about those Earthling subordinates. For him, this blow was the blow that countless Earthlings had sacrificed their lives to create for him in this battle. In the past, Jia Yan had been preparing for this attack. Everyone in the Earth fleet also understood that their only chance of victory was to create an opportunity for him, Jia Yan, to get close to the exploration ship. If this attack fails to work, then this battle will be lost. And they will lose miserably. Regardless of whether Jia Yan himself can escape the disaster, the huge Earth fleet and the hard work of all the people on Earth for a year will be in vain. So Jia Yan definitely used 200% of his power in this attack. His right front foot turned into a blue color in an instant, and this blue color was still spreading rapidly. It didn't take long for the mosquito's entire body to turn blue. The faint blue color turned into a luminous object in the vacuum of the universe. The big mosquito at this time was simply an extremely weird monster, and even that faint blue light had a strange sense of sanctity in the universe. Ha ha ha, look, What a magical blue color, this big mosquito is so wonderful, I really want to catch him as my test subject, but I can't catch him, he is too strong now. Uh-huh, uh-huh. In the black shadow on the side of the battlefield, the man's roar turned into a kind of depression. The Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict looked at each other in surprise. They didn't know that the giant mosquito was so powerful that even this man said it could not be captured. It is impossible for everyone on the battlefield to know the expressions of these people talking. Jia Yan and the exploration ship's defensive cover directly collided with each other, and the two froze in an instant. Unparalleled powerful energy bursts out, constantly spraying out in the vacuum, as if this powerful energy has caused another small sun to form here. The Starry Sky aircraft carrier was able to roam in space hundreds of years ago because of its huge body and its ability to fight for a long time. Therefore, the energy it possesses is absolutely extremely large, even if it can be described as endless. None of it is impossible. During the confrontation, the body of the big mosquito was still the body of a living creature. Slowly, his physical energy reached an upper limit and began to decline. How is that possible? The defense energy of the exploration ship is so terrifying, Jia Yan felt like he was about to collapse. After he thought about everything, he felt that he was likely to be successful in one blow, so he launched his tactical idea this time. However, if this most important step cannot be completed, there will be no such best opportunity next time. He knew that the true combat effectiveness of a semi-combat aircraft carrier would be even more terrifying. But now, the other party is in the most exhausted state. Coming from afar, the energy is empty. Having been harassed by Earth's aircraft for so long, I was extremely exhausted. The equipment is also old, and many functions may have long since expired due to hundreds of years of lack of maintenance. But in this state, he couldn't even destroy its small defensive shield. Jia Yan was almost angry. This was already 200% of his fighting power, and he had continuously gathered his fighting power in Mars to reach the current blow. If even this blow fails to destroy the opponent's defense, Jia Yan doesn't know if he will be able to destroy the exploration ship next. No. Don't I still have equipment? Suddenly at this moment, Jia Yan flashed this idea. He has never been in the habit of wearing equipment to fight, so when he was so nervous, he actually forgot about the power of his equipment. 4-foot thrusters, push me forward. At this moment, Jia Yan suddenly turned on the propeller on his front foot. This kind of thruster is prepared to increase his attack power. Although for Jia Yan, who has twice the thrusting ability, the penetration level may not be increased by 10%, but the 10% enhancement at this time is already an extremely terrifying addition. After activating this energy, the originally stalemate situation suddenly changed. Swish! There seems to be a star exploding in space. A kind of aperture bursts out at the collision point, forming a circular pattern that travels rapidly through the universe. One by one of the affected warships, they lost their functions, and many of their internal equipment were dismantled. Fortunately, they were not completely shut down. And some small interstellar matter was directly shattered. The aperture has been spreading to the outside world, and it is unknown how far it can reach. At the center of the battle, it was because of the appearance of this aperture that the small dot on the front of the energy shield finally showed a trace of fragmentation. The hard shell of the exploration ship actually shattered. Moreover, this kind of fragmentation made Jia Yan roar in his heart, "Break it for me," and after exerting force again, it finally turned into a big collapse. Pieces of matter in the sky that looked like light spots of photons suddenly exploded. The entire starry sky is filled with light, each photon. The energy shield was shattered. Give me, go to hell. At this moment, Jia Yan had no obstacles ahead, and the roar from the bottom of his heart turned into a scream of brainwave power. All creatures in the area heard his roar. Everyone saw that the big Mosquito wearing equipment stabbed and landed his attack on the surface of the exploration ship's hull without any energy protection. The dignified exploration ship, also known as the Interstellar aircraft carrier in the past, is an extremely powerful weapon with top combat power. Its hull defense is absolutely top-notch. However, under the extremely powerful Starry Sky level attack of the big Mosquito, not to mention the battleship itself, but also the defensive shield that was previously defended, all became photons that filled the sky under his blow. Under such circumstances, the battleship defense layer, which was definitely weaker in comparison, turned into a crude defense. Break. The power of the brain waves emitted by the big Mosquito is earth-shattering, spreading far and wide in the universe. This was the first time he had fought so fiercely in a long time. The first layer of defensive steel is useless. Driven by the 200% combat effectiveness enhanced by armor thrust, the huge semi-combat aircraft carrier was actually unable to stop the attack of the giant Mosquito. The second layer of steel defense was penetrated again. Jia Yan's entire body rushed into the semi-combat aircraft carrier. However, his attack is still continuing. Whatever is in front of you, penetrate it. Not even a second. Diagonally above the aircraft carrier, a huge body actually penetrated a large part of the battleship's interior, turning into a small blue sun and piercing out from there. This Starry Sky class is too scary. The battleship is going to be destroyed. Run away. Run away quickly. No, the active defense system has been completely damaged, the auxiliary power system has been paralyzed, and the load energy cannot be turned on. How could this happen? How could this happen? In the aircraft carrier, one of the Asta warriors went crazy. They all looked at each other in disbelief. All the instruments in their warships had problems. Each of the equipment they controlled was short-circuited. Or there is insufficient energy and cannot operate, and everyone is stunned. They know that the semi-combat aircraft carrier is doomed. They couldn't understand that the extremely powerful semi-combat aircraft carrier they were riding on was a battleship that could continue to operate in space for hundreds of years. It was also the only ship with a perfect self-sufficient life system for a battleship. Such a powerful thing, how could it sink like this just because of a monster? How can it be? But whether they believe it or not, even though many people regard this moment as just a nightmare, what is happening in reality is reality. Boom boom boom. Inside the battleship with its air system, the sound of loud explosions was constantly heard. There are explosions everywhere. He is simply the most powerful monarch heading towards the most tragic end. This is the real reason why semi-combat aircraft carriers cannot be popularized and will eventually become a thing of the past. Even the remaining one will eventually perish. The rise of the powerful has resulted in the huge cost of combat aircraft carriers. Although they have extremely powerful combat capabilities, once they are damaged, the gains outweigh the losses. Therefore, all interstellar empires have completely stopped research and development of combat aircraft carriers. And Jia Yan did not stop his attack in the vacuum. His body was still moving quickly towards the battleship below, constantly hitting it. With every impact, he used 200% of his fighting power. After so many years of hard work and such a long burst, this is the moment when he unleashes all his strength, all his fighting power, and even all his potential. He wants to destroy. The battleship in front of him was so fast that he couldn't see the internal structure clearly. He didn't even know how desperate the Asta man in this huge aircraft carrier was. Jia Yan just knew that the machine launches its own attacks again and again and again. Huge holes appeared on the surface of the semi-combat aircraft carrier. Every hole was created by the impact of a giant mosquito. Because the speed was too fast and the friction was too intense, the large holes created by the impact seemed to have been melted by the high temperature. The metal liquid continued to flow, and the Asta people inside who wanted to wear spacesuits to escape were completely destroyed. completely burned to death. Jia Yan also began to put greater trust in his armor equipment. Although its surface had been melted and scorched to a large extent due to this battle, its general functions were still intact. After all, this is a system specially designed for the starry sky level. Boom boom boom. In the aircraft carrier, the sound of explosions was still heard. Outside the many opened holes, an Ostaman whose name looked very much like an Earthling was sucked into the universe by the suction of the vacuum of the universe. At this point in the battle, the outcome should have been roughly decided, because such a semi-combat aircraft carrier, even if there were still a few guns roaring, they could no longer make a comeback. At this moment, Jia Yan finally showed a hint of fatigue. Tired? Really tired? After Big Mosquito was reborn, he rarely felt so tired. Attack after attack caused his body to burst out with all its strength, even its potential. He never knew that his fighting power had reached such an extent. His attack range and attack power were reduced. There was a weakening on both sides. The fleets of the Earthlings were also blown far away and lost their functions. It is also in a state where it is temporarily unable to participate in the war. Ha ha ha. Our chance is here. And in this state, the black shadow on one side finally contained a man's roar, and it was released at this time. The black shadow slowly revealed his true face. It's just a broken spaceship that's not that big. However, it is definitely not a normal thing for this spacecraft to appear here at this time. It moved suddenly. It's too fast. In an instant of movement, the speed of this spacecraft actually reached nearly 500 times the speed of sound. You must know that this is a simple acceleration. God knows how far its speed will reach in the future if this acceleration is permanent. Jia Yan was aware of the spaceship the moment it appeared, but he never thought that there would be such a civilian-looking spaceship here. He didn't even expect that this civilian-looking spaceship would appear here. The spaceship actually dared to enter their interstellar war center. What I didn't even expect was that the other party's instantaneous movements were so fast. This was obviously more than the civilian spaceships she saw on the Grey Star. Even ordinary battleships could not achieve this level of acceleration. Who? At this time, Jia Yan suddenly emitted brainwave power. After long-term training, his brainwave power was now able to cover a radius of about 10 kilometers in the starry sky. In that spaceship, I don't know if it didn't have the ability to respond, or if it didn't bother to respond to him. It just bypassed the Big Mosquito and rushed towards a hole in the semi-combat aircraft carrier. The opponent's diameter is less than 20 meters, so it is still possible to enter some of the large holes created by Jia Yan. Court death. At this moment, Jia Yan flew forward with some annoyance. Although he didn't know where the spaceship came from, it didn't look friendly, and if he did this under his nose, he definitely wanted to do something. Maybe there is some way to change the war, and that would be bad. So at this moment, he jumped forward and chased downwards. However, Jia Yan felt that his body was really tired, and after a pause, it was even harder to increase his speed. Compared with the opponent's speed, which is often hundreds of times the speed of sound, the speed of the Mosquito in a vacuum, even with the bonus of equipment, is difficult to reach 100 times in the ultimate state, let alone it is still very weak. The small spaceship rushed into the aircraft carrier in a flash of time. Asshole! Jia Yan also has gleaming eyes. He is approaching here. It is already an extremely close distance, so the difference in speed of several hundred times the speed of sound is not that big. But when he came to this hole, he felt a little stunned. Because in front of him, 10 huge metal machines less than 5 meters tall, standing in a vacuum environment, were already looking at them seriously. What shocked him was not the appearance of these metal machines, but these 10 metal machines. Their appearance is exactly the same as the metal monsters that used to wreak havoc on the Earth, but they are just enlarged many times. Aura. After seeing their appearance, Jia Yan immediately realized who the person in the spaceship was. Me. At this moment, Jia Yan felt that the other party must have some conspiracy. So I quickly charged towards the 10 metal monsters blocking the front. He has always been worried about the existence of this Asta man named Oro, because after a series of analyses, he did not think that this Asta prodigy would die in the hands of Daphne before. Even if he was really serious, Daphne should be easily killed by him. But why? He had been hiding. At this time, Jia Yan himself destroyed the Asta exploration ship before he went out. There must be a conspiracy. Jia Yan didn't think that this extremely talented Asta man would go out at this time without any plan. This man had endured for so long and even pretended to be dead, making Daphne think he was dead. After doing so much, there is no way he could appear here without any conspiracy. Miao Bai Ji. Even his conspiracy has always been an exploration ship here from the beginning. Jia Yan was shocked when he attacked the first metal monster. Finally, everything is connected in series. Oro, as a native of Asta, may have been exiled or secretly arranged to come to Earth for some reason. However, he did not give up his genius, but carried out even more crazier research on Earth. Afterwards, the matter of star condensation was revealed, causing representatives of 2 other interstellar civilizations to participate in the robbery. Next, after sending a signal to the exploration ship, he pretended to be dead. And if all of this has a purpose, then his purpose is probably for the exploration ship in front of him. Absolutely right. If it weren't for me, he could still use his own technology to obtain something in the exploration ship through invasion or other methods. This might be the ultimate goal of his conspiracy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 530. Click here to read on mobile phone. However, there are still many things that cannot be explained. Is the Earth's star condensation deliberately made to attract exploration ships, or is it really there? And the reason why he did this, what is it? A mystery. There are too many questions, but I just need to know one thing. Whatever his purpose is, stop him. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's compound eyes sparkled again. The metal monster in front was huge, but how could Jia Yan be frightened by these things? He just charged towards it. And those 10 metal monsters, each with a red light in the barrel, attacked in the direction from which Jia Yan was flying. They're clearly not those little metal monsters. Not only is the attack speed much faster, but even the speed and combat ability are definitely improved in a geometric form. But what they faced was a Starry Sky level mosquito that could destroy even the extremely powerful Starry Sky aircraft carrier. How could it be possible to defeat Jia Yan directly? Jia Yan didn't care at all and went straight to kill him. Tasting books. But after several red lights bombarded Jia Yan's body, and a dazzling light burst out, Jia Yan suddenly discovered that although the attacks of these metal monsters did not look very powerful, they were actually incredibly powerful. At this moment, Jia Yan was pushed backwards by a huge force. It's so annoying. Naturally, Jia Yan couldn't be injured. He couldn't even be hurt by the secondary battery of the star aircraft carrier. He turned his direction in the air conditioner and quickly blasted towards these 10 metal monsters. A ray of light lit up, and Jia Yan stabbed a metal monster directly on the front foot with a thrust, turning it into a mutton skewer. However, several other metal monsters also attacked at the same time. Jia Yan's speed was hindered again. The space here is so small that it's impossible to get around. The only way to pass is to completely destroy them. Jia Yan's combat strength has dropped too much, and may not even be 1/3 of its usual strength, so it actually takes a certain amount of time at this time. This also shows that Oro is really an unparalleled genius who can actually create such a terrifying metal monster machine. According to the level of the strong, it is not strange that they are classified as the peak of the heaven level. Not far ahead, the man piloting the old and seemingly tattered spaceship was flying inside the huge battleship in no hurry at this time. But soon, their destination arrived. At this time, it was impossible for the aircraft carrier to have the power to attack them. Haha, the main guns of this aircraft carrier have not been activated. There is simply not enough energy. The man looked around and smiled. This man was none other than the genius of Osto, and it was also the Oro whom Delphine had always thought she had been fighting with for hundreds of years. It's a pity that, judging from the other party's current ability, Delphine was mostly deceived by him. Lord Oro, what are we going to do next? If that big mosquito chases us, there will be no road ahead. The Siberian wild tiger put on his spacesuit and asked in a panic behind Oro. He is extremely afraid of big mosquitoes. Don't worry, he won't come so soon. And what we have to do here is very simple and quick. Oro looked at the Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict who was also wearing a spacesuit, and showed a sarcastic smile. Come here and help me take out the equipment from the spacecraft. Oro began to point at the two men. The three people wore spacesuits and got out of the spacecraft. Under Oro's guidance, the Siberian wild tiger and the addict had no choice but to use some tools to take out the entire instrument of the spacecraft. They were careful because this was an instrument that even Oro was very careful about. They knew the man's character and it was something that even he cared about, so naturally they did not dare to destroy it. Haha, my long-cherished wish for so many years is finally coming true. Oro looked at the equipment that was gradually being built, and then smiled a little. Their equipment is built in a wide space on the top floor of the aircraft carrier. This is the strongest defense of the entire aircraft carrier, not only for the outside world, but also for the inside defense. Because this is where the power system of the entire Starry Sky aircraft carrier is located. At the same time, the huge energy of the Starry Sky is also where the power system of an alien star, called the power furnace, is located. The defense inside is simply a level higher than that of the outside world. However, the size of this place is not large, so not many defense resources are wasted. This is also an important reason why Oro believes that big mosquitoes cannot destroy this place. If it is really destroyed, let alone this aircraft carrier, the entire Starry Sky for thousands of miles will be swallowed up by the violent explosion energy. It will be a completely terrifying Starry Sky phenomenon. For this reason, I also specially made the spacecraft to be able to pass through the main passage. The efforts spent were not in vain. Oro smiled faintly and looked at the Siberian wild tigers and drug addicts working there. Suddenly, a terrifying energy shock wave came from behind. The powerful brilliance almost pushed the three of them directly into the metal wall of the aircraft carrier. However, their spacesuits erupted with a faint membrane energy, blocking this energy. Hurry up, or the big mosquitoes you are afraid of are coming. Oro looked back, and it seemed that through some special equipment, he could see Jia Yan fighting several metal monsters in the back. But he still wasn't too worried. The equipment was set up quickly. It seemed that it was originally made for such emergency situations. Everything was very suitable for the power furnace of this aircraft carrier. Oro wore a spacesuit and blew out a stream of fire, flying in front of the Siberian wild tiger and the junkie. He looked at the equipment that had been completely built, and the smile on his lips became even brighter. Ha ha ha! I am a genius. The equipment must be able to operate. My idea will be realized. Oro laughed loudly and unscrupulously. The Siberian wild tiger and the addict looked at each other. Both of them had a hint of fear in their eyes. In their opinion, this alien was definitely a madman with a twisted personality. When they met before, they were even tortured miserably by this man who knew Chinese. So I don't dare to have any wrong thoughts now. Okay, start. Oro pressed a button on the instrument panel that was set up. This instrument and equipment is a simple thing. From the perspective of people on Earth, it is impossible to associate it with high technology, and no one will believe that this equipment may be those of advanced aliens. Something incredibly advanced. But in fact, it is such an item. Although the appearance is not very good looking, for Oro, an alien genius, this device needs its practicality, not its appearance. Now, it starts. Look at its appearance. This instrument is actually not quite correct to call it an instrument. It is actually something like a slender bamboo pole, with a length of about 10 meters from head to tail. However, there is a bulging surface on the head, and there are some original buttons here, and the one Oro pressed is one of them. But when he pressed the button, the device that was previously installed in the contact area of the power furnace suddenly lit up. Haha, the power system of this aircraft carrier is definitely enough to start it. Oro's eyes seemed to be bloodshot as he stared at the activated instrument with a vision. The Siberian wild tiger and the addict also looked at the 10-meter instrument with some fear. A faint fluorescence suddenly appeared on the surface of the slender bamboo pole, and this fluorescence slowly lit up. But the connection point at the rear was emitting wisps of smoke. They are devouring the energy of the power furnace. It turns out that Oro came here for the power of Asta aircraft carrier level. It requires the power of an aircraft carrier as starting energy, so his seemingly simple instrument cannot be a simple thing. At the moment when the brilliance gradually lighting up in the sky of the bamboo pole became more and more intense, the battle at the rear had also reached a fierce level. Jia Yan felt frustrated at the metal monsters in front of him. The other party obviously has a little bit of suppression ability against this big mosquito like him. Perhaps Oro, this guy, may not have thought that he would fight against the big mosquito, but he wanted to be the best at what he did. He didn't expect that the procedures and improvements to fight against the big mosquito would be reflected at this time. Even though the big mosquito is far more powerful than these metal monsters, his body is extremely tired now, and his brainwave power actually feels empty at this time, and he is actually a little weak. Jia Yan was not too frustrated, but continued to fly at this time. Crash into a metal monster in front of you. The front foot reached out and stabbed directly into the head of this metal monster. But before that, the metal monster had already moved. Its body moved sideways and completed a high-speed dodge. Jia Yan's attack actually missed the opponent and was unable to hit him. This may be the biggest weakness Oro found in the giant mosquito. The things Jia Yan had been fighting before were either slow or huge. However, if he faced an enemy that was extremely fast and larger than the mosquito itself, then Jia Yan's attacks would appear a bit stiff and it's hard to work. Of course, this is all relative. If Jia Yan was not weak now, it would still be impossible to see these monsters in his eyes. It's even possible to kill one or even several of them at once, but that's not possible now. Asshole. Jia Yan felt a little angry when he was held back by such a few minions. The pride that had just destroyed a star aircraft carrier was instantly hit. Of course, it hadn't been long since Big Mosquito reached the starry sky level, let alone invincible, so at this moment, he just felt depressed for a while, picked up his energy again, and attacked the metal monsters. Equipment, move it. Jia Yan originally didn't want to use his armor. After all, there was not much energy in it. If he used it, he would have to share the energy with those Earth battleships. By then, there might be a possibility that the battleships would not have enough energy, but there is no way now. When necessary, it is better to use energy. No matter what Oro's conspiracy is, Jia Yan must destroy it. Suddenly, the injector behind Jia Yan erupted with majestic energy. At this moment, his speed recovered a lot again. A ray of light flashed past, and a 5-meter-tall metal monster shattered into several pieces in the vacuum. Hurry up! Oro in front seemed to have seen this scene, his face was a little gloomy, and he quickly turned the button of the device. And as he moved, the device responded quickly. There was a strange distortion in the light in the sky of the bamboo pole. Then it became like a rickety piece of paper, expanding in the vacuum. The Siberian wild tiger and the addict both looked at the scene in front of them in stunned silence. I almost forgot to breathe. As Earthlings, not to mention the weird scene like this now, even the previous Star Wars, for them, it was an unforgettable sight that they had never heard of before. That ray of light continued to condense in the sky. Afterwards, under the gaze of the three people, it gradually took shape. This is a circular white light curtain with a diameter of more than 30 meters. Its center point is slowly rotating, and the countless white colors create a wonderful sense of depth, which seems to be able to swallow everything. Ha ha ha. Success. When Oro saw this scene, even though he was a genius, he felt a long sigh of relief. He laughed happily, and the smile in his eyes almost turned into reality. Okay. What we need to do now? Oro looked around, and saw that the Siberian wild tiger and the addict, who were still standing there without moving at all, looked even colder. They ignored them and flew back to the spacecraft by themselves. Lord Oro. The expressions of the two changed and they quickly followed. But they were not good at operating the flight system of the spacesuit, and how could their spacesuit be better than the spacesuit worn by Oro? So by the time they arrived in front of the spacecraft door, the spacecraft hatch was already firmly closed. Hateful. The Siberian wild tiger slapped the hatch door desperately, but how could the specially made hatch door be slapped open by him? He was not that scary big mosquito. The battle at the rear has quickly reached a terrifying level. The sound of explosions kept coming. The killing speed of the big mosquito is faster than I expected. It seems that the physical ability of the evolved beast is indeed something I could not predict. Oro looked at the back of the spaceship indifferently. He had arrived at the control seat of the spacecraft. The place was very messy, but now there were two people missing, so it was much more spacious. But it's too late. Oro looked behind him with a smile that seemed to be victorious. I have always been researching in the direction of gravitational waves, for no other reason than that. But we must follow in his footsteps and head towards that mysterious and unknown place. Oro started the ship's engines. Under the desperate gazes of the northeastern wild tigers, the spaceship started flying slowly. It flew gently towards the light curtain created by the equipment. He wasn't even afraid of hitting the light curtain, just flew past it like this. Now is the time for me to realize my long-cherished wish. Oro suddenly drank lightly and pushed the control lever of his spaceship hard. Aha! A clear sound came out in the vacuum of the universe where no sound should have been made. It was also at this moment that the light of the fierce battle behind them suddenly stopped, and there was no trace of a battle scene at all. It turned out that the big mosquito had defeated the 10 metal monsters, its wings vibrated, and it flew towards this place. At this moment, he had a vague feeling that his speed might still be slow. As expected. When Jia Yan arrived here, he found that half of the spaceship Oro was on had entered the weird circular light. The huge spaceship passed through the circle, but it did not hit the power furnace at the rear. Instead, it passed through the circle in an extremely weird way and went to an unknown place. Gravitational wave system. Seeing this scene, Jia Yan immediately realized what the other party was doing. The gravitational wave system was developed by Oro. Jia Yan even used his gravitational wave equipment to visit the Grey Star. Daphne and the others even made a plan to quickly return to Earth by studying Oro's research. Gravitational wave equipment. Oro has a more powerful gravitational wave device, he has no doubt at all. Want to run? In other words, are you using the gravitational wave system to lead to where? Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed. He didn't know how Oro could enter the gravitational waves. You must know that only a powerful star-condensed physique like his could pass through the energy of the gravitational waves. There are still puzzles. It is impossible for Oro to have the energy to activate gravitational waves. He wants to come to this battlefield to obtain the energy of the starry aircraft carrier. There are so many reasons why only the person involved can explain them. You're only halfway through, Let's see how I catch you. The time to think was only a short moment. Jia Yan saw the spaceship driven by the opponent, and about halfway through the survey, he suddenly jumped up. Extremely fast. The next moment, under the incredible gaze of the Siberian wild tiger and the drug addict, he fiercely used his front feet to grab the tail of the spacecraft that was slowly entering the front. I caught you, let's see where you run away now. Jia Yan's compound eyes have a strange light, which is also a kind of excitement. This mysterious opponent can be said to be an extremely dangerous figure. Even the scientific research energy he possesses may even subvert the existing technological level of all the stars in the entire star field. Jia Yan does not want to let him go. Feel free to leave. Even if the people on Earth cannot digest his technological capabilities, they must not let him leave and bring technological power to other civilizations. But Big Mosquito obviously miscalculated. How could the spaceship Oro was on be such a simple thing? But that's when Jia Yan pulled the opponent's warship hard. A stream of electricity that was similar to an electric current, but contained a voltage that far exceeded ordinary electric current, was suddenly stimulated from the surface of the battleship. The lightning-like electricity struck Jia Yan solidly. End of this volume. Bulletin U has accelerated the progress of this volume. The plot of Returning to Earth is over, and the next big storyline will definitely be better. I hope everyone can come to the official reading to support Bulletin U. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 531. Not good. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible for Jia Yan to be affected too much by this level of electricity, but don't forget, he is at the moment when his strength is absolutely at its lowest after fighting continuously. He was caught off guard, struck by one attack after another, and he actually let go of his front legs that were holding onto the spacecraft. Don't try to escape. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed with luster, and his front feet moved forward again. Unexpectedly, this time the opponent still used the same move, using the electric light to directly block his capture. Jia Yan finally realized that he might be unable to do anything. Forget it, if you really want to escape, there's nothing you can do about it. Jia Yan felt a little pity. This Asta man, no matter what, seemed to be a bit mysterious. If there was a way to catch him, then he could do some things. I answered some questions for Jia Yan. Jia Yan reluctantly wanted to take back his front foot. But here, he suddenly discovered to his horror that his front feet were also completely absorbed by the light. He suddenly exerted force, but the body behind him was also floating in the air. The force behind him was not strong enough to absorb it, so it had no effect. Activate the brainwave power. Jia Yan's expression changed a little. But just when he used his brainwave power, he found that his body was closer to the powerful non-suction light curtain. If it was the normal brainwave power, he might be able to pull himself out, but he used the combat power repeatedly. Coupled with the pulling just now, it is actually a little weak now and unable to explode with all its strength. The shadow of the spaceship in front disappeared from sight. Jia Yan's compound eyes were a little horrified as he watched his body gradually approach the light curtain. What is this? Although this is the transmission of gravitational waves, God knows where it leads. Are we going to leave the solar system like this? There are obviously so many things that have not been done. Jia Yan tried his best, but his strength consumption was too great. When fighting the metal monster before, it was less than half. Now it is impossible to even have half of half. It is at the level of 10% at most. The average peak heaven level may not be able to defeat it. And this kind of power is not enough to get rid of the powerful suction of the light curtain. The two Siberian wild tigers who were watching the giant mosquitoes struggling in the air, but were gradually sucked into the light, had expressions like flowers blooming. When they were abandoned before, they thought they were going to die. But now it seems that even the big mosquitoes are leaving, so their lives may still have a turning point. Jia Yan looked at these two people with a look of anger on his face. Even if he wants to leave, these two scum of earthlings cannot stay. He suddenly used his remaining brainwave power on these two guys. Poof. I saw two men in spacesuits, each with their eyes wide open in disbelief. After that, they had no ability to resist at all, and their heads cracked like watermelons. These two scum of earthlings, who had dominated the earth for a long time and even had many grievances and grudges with Jia Yan, a big mosquito, are finally dead. But Jia Yan didn't see this scene. While he was using his brainwave power, his entire head was sucked into the light curtain. I am not willing to give in. We have already repelled an exploration ship, but the Rulan Empire's exploration ship is coming. Without me, how can the people on Earth resist? Jia Yan roared. But it's no use. He only felt that his body had entered an extremely strange dimension in an instant. The sky and the earth were spinning strangely. There are uncertain lights below and left, some are colorful sights, and some are chaos. It was completely different from the gravitational wave system he had seen before. Jia Yan felt the impact of waves far exceeding the gravitational waves he had encountered before. Fortunately, his mutated body possesses a terrifying blocking power. The azure color is displayed almost immediately at this time. A powerful aura instantly affected its body at this moment. Jia Yan only felt that his body was stagnant. This stagnation seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. It was a terrible quagmire. Even he could hardly move. I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it. You actually followed me here. Ha 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 ha. You big mosquito is really weird, interesting, really interesting. When Jia Yan was feeling a little strenuous, a wild voice suddenly sounded in front of him. This voice has a kind of free and easy, a kind of bohemianness. It is obvious that the owner of the voice is a very confident and arrogant person. But what Jia Yan is concerned about is not this, but how could someone's voice appear at this time? He raised his head in surprise. At his feet, he saw a small human that looked like an ant, standing there proudly, looking up at him. This man has messy hair, and the expression on his face, just like his words, shows a bohemian look. Even without saying it, Jia Yan knew that he was the person he wanted to pursue, the Asta genius, Oro. He is also the real culprit of the metal disaster on Earth. Hey, 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 don't waste any effort. I'm not here with you right now. Haven't you noticed? I'm a shadow. Oh, it's not appropriate to say I'm a shadow. It's my current state that uses gravity. The Z factor of the wave, combined with the Q factor, is directly connected to achieve this effect as if the sound is transmitted thousands of miles. Oh. I know you don't understand it at all, right? Oro seemed to be talking to himself there. You can't speak. I understand. You are in the gravitational wave. Because of the power you lost before, you are already a little weak, right? It's a pity that I am too far away from you. Otherwise, I really hope that at this time, I can give you an end. Oro clicked his tongue, not trying to hide his murderous intention towards the big mosquito. At this time, Jia Yan was still unable to speak. Indeed, as Oro said, it was impossible for him to speak directly at this time. Because of the disappearance of energy, he was definitely in a state of collapse at this time, and he had to deal with such a terrifying situation. Gravitational waves, even if he listened attentively to Oro's speech, there was a possibility that he would lose his concentration and be attacked by the gravitational waves and die. Ha ha ha. The journey is long, and I just want someone to talk to me. Let's talk to you here. Oro, this guy, sat down as if he had no grudge against Jia Yan. His body may really be a phantom, and the waves of gravitational wave energy attacking at this time cannot do any harm to him. I said, please don't threaten me like this. I am an old man who has lived for hundreds of years. What should I do if you scare me into having a heart attack? Oro looked at Jia Yan's glaring look, a little confused. Smiling speechlessly. Jia Yan discovered that this man might not be as free and easy as he had seen. But in his eyes, even though he was smiling, there was still a trace of vicissitudes of life. Where to start? Originally I didn't want to tell you these things, but I guess we won't meet again in the future, right? So I'd better be a good person and answer all your doubts. I heard that you have many names, right? He sat there, and as if by magic, he took out a bottle of French red wine from somewhere, and this red wine really had a faint fragrance, and Jia Yan's scent wafted into it. Organ. Lord Assassin, Big Mosquito, Giant Mosquito. All these names must not be your own. And you don't care about any of these names, am I right? Oro drank red wine lightly. Said. He looked at the Big Mosquito and said something softly, which almost made Jia Yan to feel so moved that he gave up his defense. Jia Yan. Or if I call you this, you will think this is your real name, right? What? At this moment, Jia Yan was almost disturbed, and he was directly killed or injured by those waves of impact energy. Oh. These words didn't hurt you. I'm so surprised. Oro seemed to be aware of the mosquito's tough character, and was even more shocked. How should I put it? I'm sorry. To me, your existence may be just the result of my small research. The story is like this. More than 10 years ago, when I was looking for a research subject, I passed through a certain area in your country of China, and then I discovered a young life that was about to die. Oh, you know, Mr. Oro, always you were so kind-hearted, so I decided to rescue you. But your body can no longer be used. So I took you to a secret research base located in the northeast of China. Oh. You already know what's going to happen next, right? I placed you in a small mosquito egg that is about to hatch. Lord Oro promises that this is not a game, nor is it a way to kill time. Really, although I admit that I lost interest later and went to study my gravitational waves. But I really never thought that this little mosquito like you not only survived, but could also reach this step. As for the fact that you are an evolved beast, I hope you don't mind, Brother Jia Yan. I was originally conducting research on evolved beasts. Oh. I promise this is not something to kill time. You know, I can continue to research. 3 hours of evolving beasts, 3 hours. Oh my God, I actually spent 3 hours of my precious time studying evolving beasts. Oro almost exploded. It seems that spending 3 hours studying evolved beasts is a very wrong thing. You know, 3 hours is a huge waste for me, because I found that the evolved beast is uncontrollable and impossible to create artificially, so I vented. Oh. It's not venting, it's random, ahem. In short, the results of the research are injected into a very wonderful mosquito egg. By coincidence, that mosquito egg is the one that is about to hatch you. But do you know what happened next? I can't wait to slap myself in the mouth now. The records at that time seemed to have been arranged by God, and I forgot to record them all. My handicraft, was made with concentration. That mosquito egg really became an evolved beast. You know, when I later learned about your existence, I was so happy. Unfortunately, that experiment could not be replicated. I even invested 3 more times for it. 10 hours, you know, it took me 33 hours, it was a huge waste. Oro sat on the ground and yelled as if he was crazy, drinking hard while yelling. Jia Yan listened quietly, from the initial shock to the gradual numbness. Through Oro's words, he knew his own appearance, and why he has the body of a mosquito. All of these are even related to Oro. No wonder, at first, his body was slightly different from that of an ordinary mosquito. Of course, Jia Yan also understood that maybe Oro thought his creation had played a role, but Jia Yan knew that creation was only part of it. As a true evolved beast, he understood that things like evolved beasts could not be created by humans. Even if the same operation is repeated again, it is impossible for an evolved beast to appear, because there are various better principles at work. Jia Yan just listened, and Oro kept saying something there. He found that there was an extreme loneliness hidden behind the deeper eyes of this man. But Jia Yan couldn't understand, so if he had the ability, he would still kill the opponent. You know, he is the culprit of the metal monster crisis that caused the death of billions of people on the earth. Oh. Where are you talking about? About the Rulan Empire exploration ship you are worried about, right? Haha, that guy Defuni really thinks he has defeated me. This is simply impossible. In order to prove that it's stupid. Although I didn't have to do that, when she sent the signal, I had completely eliminated the space navigation trajectory of the Rulan Empire's exploration ship. Do you know what this sentence means? Oro spoke, took another sip of wine, and then continued with some contempt. In this era, they still use space trajectories for their voyages. You know the principle, right? These exploration ships consume a huge amount of energy to record the coordinates of space along the roads they traveled behind. If they want to return later, they can navigating through curvature, passing through the fastest nodes. They don't know that this navigation method is very fast, but it has too many shortcomings. I can easily destroy such nodes by using the gravitational wave theory. This sentence means that if they want to return to the Earth, they must use normal navigation. If they use curvature navigation, it will also take 8 or 9 years. After 8 or 9 years, that guy Daphne, you will also return with your power, right? Oh, I am not that capable to monitor your affairs on the Gray and Yellow Star, but you are too careless and always let me eavesdrop. No, I accidentally overheard your conversation, ha. Listening to Oro's words, Jia Yan finally breathed a sigh of relief. What he was worried about before was that if the Rulan Empire's exploration ship arrived, as Defuni predicted, its strength would be greatly damaged, and the Earthlings would lose him, making it absolutely impossible to resist. Fortunately, this guy Oro also did something beneficial to them. He believed that it was impossible for a person with this kind of character to deceive him. Because there is no need, he has always acted in a self-centered manner. This kind of person will not try to deceive him in this situation. As Oro said, this journey seems to be an extremely long one. Jia Yan doesn't know how long he has been in the terrifying space. Everything in his sight is chaotic, even where Oro is. Wherever the spaceship is, I haven't seen it. The only one who was sitting at his feet was Oro, who talked to him in different ways, but at this time, he no longer called Jia Yan by another name, but directly used Jia Yan. This name hadn't been called by anyone for a long time, and Jia Yan felt inexplicably uncomfortable at this moment. It also feels very weird. Oh, Jia Yan, the look in your eyes seems to want to ask me, what is the purpose of doing these things? What is the goal of this journey, right? Hey, don't say that I am in your belly Ascaris. Live a long time, as long as you are smart enough, you can see that some things are very simple. Ha, I am such a genius. Oro muttered something crazy to himself, and then he started speaking. You know, we Asta people, you Earthlings, the Rulan Empire, and even the entire star field we are familiar with are just a small area in the entire galaxy. And this area also includes a small arm spiral structure called the Orion Arm. However, the Orion Arm is actually just a very small cantilever. For the entire galaxy, it is a remote place that is indispensable. But in our Orion Arms, many years ago, probably hundreds of thousands of years ago, there appeared an extremely powerful being. It was a terrifying starry sky beast with brainwave power. His strength was so great that it would have surpassed that of that time. The most powerful star empire has been completely destroyed. It is said that we Asta people, as well as you people on Earth, are actually descendants of this Ming. I am not interested in this period of history, but I am very interested in that powerful starry sky beast. You know, theoretically, he can live for 10,000 years, but he only appeared for less than 2,000 years. Disappeared in our star field. I searched for a lot of historical information and found out that this powerful starry sky behemoth discovered a secret. That is, outside the Orion Arm, there is a truly powerful and even brilliant star in the Milky Way. 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times more than our remote Orion Arm. That behemoth in the starry sky left the Earth through some kind of gravitational wave on your Earth, leading to the truly prosperous place of the bustling galaxy, pursuing his more powerful path. And after knowing this I finally knew that there might still be people in this universe who could be as genius as me, and I might even be a genius. So, why don't I just go to a prosperous place like him and pursue a brighter path? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 532. Ha ha ha, I succeeded. The starry beast and the star condensation left on the Earth became my greatest help. In order to stay on Earth, I didn't even hesitate to incarnate as a so-called representative, and I even didn't hesitate to fight falsely with those representatives of civilizations that I simply didn't care about. But now, I finally succeeded. You should be happy too, right? You can take my ride to a truly prosperous place. Oh. Our journey destination is about to arrive, I have to go back. In addition, the parallax when we enter the gravitational wave is 0.002 seconds, so the place where it appears may be as far away as more than 1,000 light years, so we probably won't have the chance to meet each other in this life. I wish you a pleasant journey. Oro's figure disappeared from Jia Yan's sight. As for Jia Yan, who was looking at the deserted place, there was a hint of unwillingness and anger in his eyes. He finally knew all the secrets and everything, and it turned out that it really had such a big relationship with Oro. If it weren't for him, Jia Yan might just be a person who would have died long ago. If it hadn't been for him, there might not have been the trouble that Earth was being targeted by Asta and other civilizations. If it weren't for him, the billions of people on Earth who might have died during the metal monster crisis would still be alive and well. Jia Yan was gnashing his teeth at him. Although he made Jia Yan reborn, it could not offset the evil deeds Oro had done. If he could kill him, Jia Yan would never kill him mercilessly. But the distance is too far now. After you go out, the distance will be more than 1,000 light years, right? Well, I hope this 1,000 light years will really be your natural protective barrier, otherwise. In Jia Yan's eyes, there was a fierce flash of fierce flames. But where is his so-called prosperous place? How far is it from the solar system? Judging from what Oro said, it probably won't be close. I should first consider how to return to the solar system. Jia Yan's thinking direction immediately shifted to returning to Earth. After all, there are still many things that have not been completed on Earth. If he does not go back now, there will be no changes in the subordinates of Earth City. But even if Jia Yan is anxious, what is supposed to come will come. Jia Yan felt the gravitational wave energy attacking his whole body and became much looser. He quickly moved his body. Being no stranger to the gravitational wave system, he knew that he would need to use his own strength to break through this weak point, otherwise he would still be unable to get out. In the world ahead, a bright twisted area appeared. Jia Yan's eyes froze. Then the front foot moved in that direction and struck out hard. Give it to me, broken. The front foot, carrying the fierce light of brainwave power, pierced the area of light. Bo! A sound like a cracking eggshell caused cracks to appear in the distorted space. Jia Yan quickly drilled into the area where the crack appeared. The universe is still the same universe. There is a mysterious luster in the deep darkness. If you have good eyesight, you can find many brilliance in the universe, and there are colorful colors everywhere. But most living beings' eyesight is not that good, so what they see will always be darkness and the same scenery that never changes. However, in such a scene, a cyan light suddenly appeared and slowly condensed into shape in an area of the universe. And at the moment when its brightness reaches its peak, a figure with blue legs and metal armor stabbed out from inside the color with a fierce thrust. This foot seems to be born from the void. No one knows where it comes from, and no one knows what kind of existence is behind the foot. But here is the universe, in the dark starry sky, there is no one who can see the scene. In the deserted area, the light grew stronger and stronger, almost reaching its peak. Not long after, the desperately stirring feet stirred the cyan color to an exaggerated level, and the huge thing behind the front feet finally moved out gently. This is a terrifying behemoth wearing armor. He is more than 30 meters long, and the metal armor he wears gives him a cold and stern appearance. There was a faint flash of blue in the dark compound eyes. This armor seems to be affected by my blue energy. It has a trace of blue energy properties and can resist gravitational waves. There was a strange light in the monster's eyes, and he took a look at his equipment. However, he didn't pay much attention, but moved his eyes to look around the dark surroundings. The huge monster that appeared was naturally Jia Yan. After passing through the layers of space, Jia Yan now has no idea where he has come. He is just in a vacuum, and he vaguely feels that the vacuum around him is different from the one he is familiar with. Although he cannot tell the specific difference, but for him, the feeling at this time was not too comfortable. The unfamiliar environment is on the one hand, and on the other hand, he is really too weak. After a series of battles, and then entering the gravitational wave system, it took an extremely huge amount of energy to defend against those gravitational waves for who knows how long before reaching this place. With such a series of consumption, his body has long been exhausted, and it can be said that it is completely empty. Even a trace of energy is almost gone. Huh? What a huge star! Finally, Jia Yan looked back and found an extremely huge star appearing behind him. This is a red giant star. Compared with the Sun, its volume may be hundreds of times larger than the Sun. The surface exudes a terrifying and violent red light, and extremely terrifying radiation energy shines on the body of the big mosquito through a long distance. There is another planet over there. It's also super huge. How can there be such a huge Earth-like planet in the universe? It's simply terrifying. Jia Yan turned his eyes again and discovered something that surprised him even more. That is, where he saw it, he saw an extremely huge Earth-like planet that could be described as a giant star. Visually, this planet is more than 10 times larger than the diameter of the Earth, and its surface area is even greater. Originally, such a large Earth-like planet is impossible to exist in astronomy, but for the universe, its existence itself is to break the word impossible, so the existence of such a planet is not that surprising. Things. It seems to have an atmosphere. I don't know if there is life there, but I can't worry about that much now. Let's go over and see if there is any way to restore the power. Jia Yan found that his body could hardly fly. Fortunately, there is still some energy in the armor. After turning on the energy, I saw a flame shooting out from the tail of the big mosquito. His body was swaying a little as he flew towards there. Draco star. This is an emerging immigrant planet. As the second generation of the immigrant planet, Tang Tangzi is an authentic dragon planet person. But he was not happy. Just like all the Kudi Tantalum people living on this desolate planet, as a Kudi Tantalum people who abandoned their homeland, abandoned their mother planet, and even abandoned 21 colonial stars during the war, they were not in the best mood at this time. Very good. The entire Kudi Tantalum people have long since fallen apart. In the previous battle, they were completely defeated by the enemy. The group ran around one by one and became a wandering race in the starry sky. Their group of tribesmen can only come to beg for food on the Dragon Star, which is known as the extremely high level of danger. Tangs, it's your turn to go out to get food today, be careful. A man knocked on Tang's door, which shocked him. The Kudi Tantalum people don't know where the genes came from. They only know that their own group followed an extremely powerful man hundreds of thousands of years ago and came to this starry sky through a long distance. After that, the strong man who was once known as the giant beast in the starry sky with brainwave power was killed by another unparalleled strong man, and the Kudi Tantalum people were liberated. However, they, a group with only 4 limbs and not many strong men, have been humiliated in this starry sky. They finally established a small country with 21 planets, but they were defeated during a cosmic mercenary mission. Was easily obliterated by several strong men. Okay, I understand, Tankai responded. Hey, why can we only have such a thin body? The hands, feet, and head are also round. Except for the hair on the top of the head, there is no protective hair elsewhere. It would be great if we could be stronger. Tankai stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his clothes. It didn't take long for him to put on the armor, which is the strongest thing for the Kudi Tantalum people and the basic thing to fight against other races, and walked out of the camp. Kuditan people, according to the covenant, you cannot kill too many creatures in our green forest. Otherwise, don't blame us for killing you in a row. As soon as he walked out of the camp, a voice suddenly appeared in Tankai's ears. Okay, sir. Tangs quickly looked around, but didn't see anything. So he respectfully gave a loud compliment to the forest in front of him. Little Mosquito, let's go, Tankai said softly to a flying creature he was holding in his hand. Then he made a leap and climbed onto the flying creature, which was not much bigger than him. The weight and heavy armor made the flying creature sink completely and almost staggered down. The two of them flew slowly and staggeringly towards the depths of the forest. If anyone on Earth saw the little mosquito that Tangsa was riding, they would definitely feel dumbfounded. Because this flying monster flying under Tankai's crotch was actually a creature that was 70% to 80% similar to a mosquito. It's just that it's many times bigger than mosquitoes on Earth, and it can even be ridden by people. This mosquito was flying in the air with its majestic mouth parts, but its flying ability seemed to be poor and it did not fly very fast. Tangsa came to a relatively deserted forest area. This was the hunting ground specially set up by the local masters for the Kudi Tantalum people. There are not many wild beasts here, and if you wait for a long time, you may not be able to hunt one. It is even possible that there will be no one for several days. Although over a long period of time, the Kudi Tantalum people have evolved a higher ability to absorb food, and it is okay to go without food for several days. However, in such harsh circumstances, some children have already appeared. A sign of stunted growth. Suddenly, Tangsa's face lit up. He found a unicorn-like creature approaching him. Just when he was about to shoot. Bang! In the sky, a violent explosion of energy rose up and invaded fiercely. The prey in front of him was frightened and ran away. Tankai also punched in frustration. He turned to look at the sky to see what kind of thing it was that was ruining his good deeds. But soon, he was stunned, and then the expression on his face was extremely frightened, and his mouth opened so wide that it seemed like he could fit a fist into it. That is a huge monster. This monster fell hard towards the ground. But this was not what surprised Tankai the most. After all, there were extremely powerful monsters everywhere in the Dragon Star. What surprised him the most was that this monster looked extremely familiar. He looked at the little mosquito parked next to him and began to gently suck the liquid from the tree trunk, and then looked at the huge thing in the sky, and suddenly shouted. Little mosquito! Look, is that your mosquito-riding ancestor? Your ancestor is here. He shouted with great excitement, as if he had seen something most interesting. But the next scene made the Kuti Tantalum man even more shocked. The huge monster looked faintly weak. During his fall, he used his own strength to barely slow down his fall. The friction with the atmosphere all over his body caused the fireball that appeared to disappear in an instant. It can be seen that this monster has a slender mouthparts, and its body is covered with armor that, although it has mottled battle marks, it highlights its power. He has a body of more than 30 meters. If his extremely terrifying long legs are fully extended, he can cover 100 meters. He is simply a monster as powerful as the sky and the earth. But this monster is in very bad shape. Tanger Tankai's worried expression just appeared, and as expected. "How bold, you dare to invade my airspace." A sudden sound resounded throughout the vast forest. Tanger Tankai's heart tightened, and he quickly lowered his figure even further. He knew that this was the sound made by the real owner of this forest and the strongest person in this forest. If he is discovered, he, a weak Kuti Tantalum man, may suffer. This lord doesn't care whether he came out with a covenant or not. However, that existence obviously didn't pay attention to his aunt's thoughts. At this moment, as the sound rang out, a monster figure larger than the sky was ejected from the forest at extremely high speed. It seemed impossible for the monster in the sky to react. Just as this huge body approached, it was hit hard by it. Bang! A shock wave came, and Tanger Tankai didn't even have time to react. He was actually thrown away more than 10 meters because of this battle shock wave that happened hundreds of meters high in the sky. He hit a tree and almost fainted. And the huge armored monster in the air was shot away without any resistance after being attacked. Boom boom boom. On the ground not far away, there was the sound of the monster crashing into countless trees after being bombarded to the ground. The ground seemed to be shaking. The dust rising into the sky made Tanger Tangzahir cough constantly. Humph. Whoever dares to invade my territory and airspace next time will suffer this. I hope all the creatures here will take care of themselves. The huge figure that appeared after that did not stop at all. Amidst a series of rustling sounds, it left far away, as if it could be hundreds of kilometers away in an instant. And Tanger Tangzahir coughed for a long time before he recovered. He heard the sound go away and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Why are you so awesome? If you have the ability, go to Kaikan and find those powerful space mercenaries. You know how to show off your power in your own territory. How can you be considered a hero? Tanger Tankai looked contemptuous. Although there were not many such strong men in their treasury, they could still find a few. If they hadn't come here with only a small group of people, they might not have ended up in such a miserable situation. That monster should be dead, right? Oh, I don't know where it came from. It's so unlucky to meet this evil star all at once. Tanger Tankai thought for a moment and then rode on his mount Little Mosquito. Slowly flew towards the direction of the huge flying monster. Let's see if that guy is edible. If so, it will be enough to feed our camp for a long time. Tanger Tankai had this idea. He never thought that the monster attacked by the forest lord would actually be alive. In the smoke-filled area, a huge body did not move at all on the sunken ground. It obviously looked like he was dead. This monster's wings are very large, taking up almost half of the body, and the wings are very muscular. The armor on his body was extremely hard, and even under the previous attack, it seemed that there was not much damage. It's just that none of this works. Lord, his strength has reached the peak of heaven level. With such strength, it is too easy to kill this powerful creature. Tanger Tankai stood in front of the huge monster, looking at where the meat could be eaten. No, we can't draw a conclusion from this. I'd better discuss with the adult guarding him if he can be allowed to drive a transport truck out and drag him back to the camp. Otherwise, how could I possibly carry it by myself? Tanger Tankai thought of this and hurried back to the camp. Application? Do you still want the body of that monster? Haha, it doesn't matter if I give it to you, but are you sure he is dead? If he is still alive and you treat him back, be careful that the Lord will kill you. A new volume and a new atmosphere. Please come to Cheateon.com and subscribe to the official version. If you subscribe to other sites, you will receive half the money.